Prologue. It was an extremely random meeting. To Sinola or Alshera Almanes, sleeping wasn't an equivalent of being defenseless. Although her senses were clumsier than usual, even a Heaven's Blade successor would find it difficult to attack her in her sleep. Sinola could prove it with Canaris. She could tell Canaris was within 100 steps of where she was, even while she was using K to mask her presence. This wasn't a matter of confidence, but reality. Sinola wanted to get up, but she had no motivation to do so. She knew she'd quickly tire of her life as Sinola if she kept living in this identity. Life couldn't be always full of joy. There always were boredom and arguments. She took on the identity of Sinola because she wanted to remove the boredom of being Alshira, but at the end there was still boredom, and she could do nothing about that. As she thought of that, she gradually drifted off to sleep. But she never thought someone would get so close to her before she realized it. Who is it? She opened her eyes without making a noise, a seemingly slow reaction. In fact, she was reacting with ease to the next move that the person would make. She never thought the other person's next action was to cry.
Huh?
It was a normal girl. Sinola didn't sense any traces of her hiding anything. The stirring of a K vein could not be masked from the sensitivity of Sinola's ears.
This child? Unbelievable. A normal girl walking up to her without hiding her presence, and she hadn't even noticed her. That was her first time.
Oi, why are you crying?
Tears slid down her cheeks as the girl looked at Sinola. If she was sad about something, she should go somewhere and cry. If she wanted someone to comfort her, then why come to interfere with Sinola's sleep? And she cried after seeing her. Why?
I'm sorry. I think I'm lost.
She hastily wiped her tears.
Never mind that. But why? Primero, I don't know either.
She didn't seem to be lying.
I don't know why, but I feel something in my chest, and I can't turn away my gaze.
Sinola looked into the girl's eyes. Her own reflected image. That should be in there.
Huh? What is it? Sorry. Nothing.
She smiled to cover up the doubt in her and looked at the girl's eyes again.
The reflected image in her eyes really wasn't Sinola. Why?
Instead, she saw a beast with 4 legs. Grendon, the electronic fairy that was in charge of the lance-shelled city. The insane electronic fairy that hated filth monsters. Another shadow stood behind Grendon. The other truth of the lance-shelled city that the family of Almanes was hiding. The other soul that slumbered in Grendon. That was what the girl was seeing. Was this Sinola's imagination? She was just a normal girl. Is that it? Only one conclusion emerged from her pondering. This girl wasn't even a military artist, but to be caught in such a fate? Or had the genes spread out to such a level? Regios, the alchemists made them to fight the world. The genes of fate. But this was also just something random. Even alchemists weren't omnipotent. The existence of such a world as this had proven it. Perhaps this really was just something random that had happened outside expectations. But if things have become this...
I'm Sinola. You? Lirin Marfs. If possible, can we be friends?
If this defenseless girl was caught in a fate that even Sinola couldn't fight against, I'll do my best to protect her, no matter what that means, and this moment witnessed the real birth of Sinola as a person. Chapter 1. In a Broken House.
This wasn't the first time she had been in an academy city. Munyonfa Rufa thought as she stood beside the leader. No academy city would be very wealthy.
Most of its income would have been spent sustaining the livelihood of students and maintenance of facilities. As such, the Salinvan guidance mercenary gang that Munfa was in usually wouldn't be given VIP treatment. Though she didn't have a map, she knew around an academy city would be strong military artists or another city, which explained the low probability of filth monsters attacking academy cities. One probably wouldn't know this truth if one only spent his entire life in one city, but someone had planned the locations of different Regios. I never thought of that before I entered the mercenary gang. Even so, the mercenary gang would sometimes visit academy cities not to work as hired mercenaries to fight, but to work as teachers, to allow student military artists to taste the atmosphere of a real fight, probably just a taste of what was left of a fight though. The previous leader of the mercenary gang said that was the best way to teach. Everyone else said it was boring though. But Myunfa herself had been really busy when visiting an academy city. Of course, the problem of resupplying was part of it too. 7 years. That many years had passed by since the mercenary gang picked up Myunfa. Her strength wasn't enough for her to fight on her own, so she hadn't really fought before, but she thought it incredible that she hadn't died in the past 7 years. This thought surfaced in her mind because the mercenary gang constantly moved from city to city. They were constantly exposed to the danger outside. An electronic voice broke Myunfa's train of thought. They were in one of the bus stations on the edge of Zuellni. Myunfa was on the roof of the roaming bus. The vehicle was bigger than a normal roaming bus, built to house the mercenary gang. It looked like a moving fortress. As such, it needed 3 times the normal length of rope to hold it down at the bus station. The mercenary gang currently had 43 military artists and a number of technicians. The large size of the roaming bus was needed to house these people, their living space, the diet preparation space, and other storage. No matter how far Myunfa's gaze roamed, all she saw were the multi-legs of the city and the arid land. But Firmaus, the man with the electronic voice, saw something different.
Anything.
The person sitting on Myunfa's left asked. He was Haya Salinvan Laya, the leader of the Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang.
Firmaus was the one who had picked up Myunfa. He had looked after her for 7 years now, but she had only recently managed to understand how he thought. Firmaus sighed at the strength of the genius psychokinesist, Feli Loss.
If you two fought, who would win, Tilda? But he's a bit rusty now, Tilda.
Haya said. He was the leader, but he still failed to hide the childish side of him.
But Wolfstein, since meeting Layfon Wolfstein, that side of Haya was more obvious and intense than before. Myunfa understood. She was about the same age as Haya when Firmaus picked her up, so she grew up together with him. But now, the relationship between them was as a leader and a student. This gap between them made her lonely. However, she could stay by his side with this identity, so she was happy too.
Haya curled up his lips. Fairmouse continued, the shaking of his mask denoting the shaking of his head.
Although the Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang was formed in Grendon, out of the 3 people here, only Fairmouse was born in Grendon. Some of the other gang members entered the gang while the gang roamed from city to city. Only the seniors who were about to retire and the second head of the gang were born in Grendon. Firmaus was the only person left in the mercenary gang who was Grendon born.
The youngsters heard of Grendon's Heaven's Blade successors from the older generation. The truth was beautified and exaggerated, hence, Myunfa didn't think a Heaven's Blade successor was really that strong.
She never thought anyone could win against Haya until the appearance of Layfon Allsafe, a Grendon-born, former Heaven's Blade successor, exiled from Grendon. Layfon was now fighting the larva in a place Myunfa couldn't see.
Myunfa heard loneliness in Firmao's voice. When Layfon arrived at the destination on his bike, the ground had already cracked apart, spilling out the larva. The larva crawled out of the hard ground like water shooting forth from a broken pipe. They spilled out and spread across the earth.
I've confirmed it through my eyes. 150 larvae. The mother and the other larvae beneath the ground show no life signals. The larvae had probably eaten the mother and then each other. Layfon stopped his bike and took out the adamantium dite. Different dites were placed in the slots in the adamantium dite. The best feature of the adamantium dite was its ability to combine and use these different alloys. But, tracking again, Layfon put the thought of Feli aside, poured his K into the adamantium dite, and spoke the keyword. Restoration AD.
A weapon left with only its handle formed in his hand. Numerous steel threads were attached to one end of the handle.
I trust Feli. I'll calculate the number I have to defeat. You just need to track them with your eyes.
I know.
Whether she had heard of the word trust, or that she was tired of the same conversation, Feli didn't say anything else. She spread the flakes, including the one on her helmet, into the sky. She knew where her flakes were heading without having to explore her surroundings with the steel threads. Even Layfon found that terrifying. At the same time, he felt a murky feeling in his chest. He dismounted from the bike without cutting off the engine, and he ran his K into the steel threads. In that 1 second, he clearly felt something murky in his heart. Something heavy in him had slowed down his thought. His body felt all right, though. A fulfilled feeling inside him once he got to use K as much as he could out here, whereas back in the city, he had to suppress it. But this feeling was exactly the problem. I must hurry and finish this.
His steel threads went hunting for the larva. Why is it like this? He knew the answer, but the question hovered in his mind. That day, loneliness and tension greeted Layfon after the cooperated fight with the Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang. One of the reasons revealed itself, straight after that fight.
Layfon and the mercenary gang were greeted by Zuellni. They went in the city through the entrance in the bottom half, taking off their masks to breathe in the purified air.
The people who greeted them were the student president, Carrion Vance, other members of the student council, Parley, the senior military artists of the mercenary gang, and Feli. Then came Sharnid, Naraki, and Dalshina, but not Nina. That was the source of his loneliness. How strange. Mina was the captain of the 17th platoon, and Layfon and Sharnid were the team members. Mina wasn't one to not welcome back her team members. This gave him a really bad feeling. A crack showed on Feli's usually indifferent face. Harley was cheerful as usual, but his countenance was a bit stiff and green. He looked as if he wanted to say something, but he swallowed it and his gaze darted around. That was enough for Layfon to raise the question.
Where's the captain?
He had to raise the question. Now that he knew, he had to. Standing next to him, Sharnid also felt that something was wrong, but Layfon didn't push the responsibility to him. His gaze swept across the people before him. As such, a senior gave a reply to his question. Carrion waved and stopped Feli and Harley from speaking.
She's missing.
Layfon's heart thumped. It made that kind of a noise.
What's going on?
Sharnid said, putting his hand on Layfon's shoulder. His voice trembled like Layfon's, but in it was calm. He glanced at Feli. She should know where Nina was up till when she went missing.
I failed to find the captain once she entered the center of the mechanical department.
Meaning she's missing now?
She nodded.
Her presence suddenly disappeared. I checked the area around but didn't find her.
How? Layfon was speechless.
She might have invaded the very center of the department. That's a secret even we can't touch. But in that case, we can only give up. It's a place we can't reach. Perhaps there's a failure there. But I can't risk stopping the city from functioning.
A certain feeling rushed up in Layfon. This had become his responsibility. Not too much time was needed to defeat 500 filth monsters. The larvae were nothing to Layfon. Although his skill in using the steel threads was only 1,000th of Linton's, Lintons liked to describe with numbers and exaggerated them. In truth, with Layfon's level of K, he could defeat these many larvae in one moment. Yes, even though his skill wasn't on Lintons' level. The filth monsters rushing towards Zuellni from behind him were heading straight into a trap. If Layfon was in Grendon, other military artists would have taken care of this crisis, but not in Zuellni. People of high talent were so labeled by others, so they could be used equally by other people. That was the cruel reality. All sorts of policies were created to protect these elites so they could be used for a long time and for maximum potential. Military artists were people who could die easily, and as such, cities gave them the best protection possible. Many families that gave birth to military artists were given wealth and the best living conditions, but that didn't change the fate where they were used as commodities. The purpose of an academy city was to nurture elites, not to consume them. That was why any situation with students dying must be avoided as much as possible. Zuellni being attacked by filth monsters was, to any city, the biggest crisis.
Thanks for your hard work.
Feli's soft voice sounded in his ear.
Any other reaction?
Straight in your path. The information came from the flake on the drone, so the psychokinetic power is lacking. I doubt the accuracy of the intelligence. I can get more detailed information if we get 3 days closer.
I got it. Please return for resupplying.
Right. Take your time resting.
Weariness filled Feli's voice. Next, running desperately in weariness. The city should be avoiding filth monsters, not attacking them. Did other cities have the same level of confidence to overcome this crisis? Because I said so. Layfon thought as he rode the bike to Zuellni. If he said it out loud, Feli probably would say that's not true, so he kept it inside him. When he first heard from Carrion of the city going on a rampage, he immediately thought of Mina. She had a good relationship with the electronic fairy.
Layfon had never seen anyone who had a relationship with an electronic fairy so good that the electronic fairy would fly over for a hug. He had never seen an electronic fairy in Grendon.
He had wondered whether Zuellni was special because it liked to hug other people, but that probably wasn't the case. Zuellni didn't like hugging just anyone. He only knew Zuellni because Nina introduced him to it. Was it because of Nina's personality or some special ability of hers? He couldn't think of anyone else who could directly touch an electronic fairy. That was why he thought she could do something about it. Such a weak reason. If only he didn't think of that. If only he just defeated the filth monsters, solved the looming crisis, and then discussed the reason behind Zuellni's rampage. So many students were here. They had better brains than him. The result would have been better if he had left it to them. All I can do is fight filth monsters. Other people would call him arrogant, but Layfon was good at military arts. Till now, most of his time was spent on increasing his strength as a military artist. No one in Zuellni had as much strength and experience as him in fighting filth monsters. But being a military artist had nothing to do with solving the problem of a city going on a rampage. He couldn't do anything without having first experienced it. However, he had pushed that problem onto Nina, pushed it to her without listening to anyone else's opinions. That's true arrogance. He tossed away his thoughts of solving this problem on his own. After looking at the fight of the mercenary gang, Layfon thought himself too arrogant. Did you find Senpai?
Feli remained silent. In this heavy atmosphere, Layfon tightened his grip on the handle of the bike.
When Liren stretched all she wanted in the space she had been waiting for, footsteps sounded in the corridor outside and the door was banged open.
Don't move!
Huh?
Liren said, unprepared for the gun facing her.
We're from the city's armed forces. Don't move.
One of the people wearing the fighting uniform said. He and the people with him were about Liren's age. She had no choice but to keep her stretching pose as she raised her hands.
Excuse me, please go out to the corridor. That young man must be the captain. He ordered one of his comrades to remain in the room, and he left with the rest of the soldiers. In the corridor echoed the footsteps of leather boots, angry howling and moaning. Only the title of city's armed forces was clearly heard, and any dissatisfaction started calming down. The person in the corridor took Liren and the others outside. It seemed all of the passengers were caught in a commotion. They were in one of the facilities in the roaming bus area.
Who would have thought that I'd get caught up in something strange so quickly?
Liren turned her head at that voice. The silver-haired, handsome young man was also taken to the outside by the same person who took Liren away. But the young man didn't look worried or shocked.
Better do what that driver says.
Savaris seemed happy. On the other hand, Liren was too busy fending off the pressure on her.
Seems so.
They left the driver this morning, registered themselves, took their luggage, and arrived at the designated facility. It was lunchtime when Liren was stretching herself.
The passengers probably calmed down by taking notice of what the driver had said to them. The driver had also said, "You must not make trouble. Any criminals will not be put in jail." Why? Because it's too much trouble. Outsiders are outsiders. Keeping them doesn't gain the city anything. If there happens to be a roaming bus around, the city will put a stamp on the clothes, get the criminals to wear them, and exile them. But if the crime committed is really severe, us roaming bus drivers can refuse to take on the criminal. I have to look after my passengers after all. If we refuse, and there aren't any roaming buses around, the city will forcibly remove the criminals, meaning they toss them away like trash. That's the way it is. Humans would die if they stayed outside a city without the air purification system. Forceful removal was the euphemism of capital punishment. How can I die here? Liren shivered. They left the corridor and walked down the stairs rather than take the lift. They were taken to the reception hall. No one lived here. There were a lot of people that Liren didn't know. They probably came here on other roaming buses. They came here to change roaming buses to get to other cities. They were travelers who couldn't even get to cities that they had once visited. Yes, once Liren took the next bus, she'd be heading to Zuellni, the academy city where her childhood friend Layfon resided. As such, I must not be dragged down here. She vowed silently and entered the reception hall. This city was named Miath. The city's armed forces surrounded the passengers in the reception hall. Liren observed the people in the armed forces as she waited and mixed in with the crowd. These people had the symbol of the city police on their uniform, and they all looked to be about her own age.
Truly an army of kids. An academy city is such a strange place. It can function even without any experienced people around.
Yes, this was an academy city, a city managed by students, just like the city that Layfon was in.
Very low level, these military artists. Seems the rumor of academy cities not encountering filth monsters as much is true. Speaking of which, just what's going on? It's about time for them to give us an explanation.
The person who took Liren away to the reception hall spoke. He had a clear voice and his manners showed he had had a good education, but his eyes looked serious. Despite the reservation in his words, his voice showed he would not take no for an answer.
The crowd broke into a groan. They quieted under the sweeping gaze of that young man.
Important information. I see.
Savaris nodded.
Important information? Speaking aside, these people look tense.
Liren looked at the young man. She understood the importance of information from school, so it was reasonable for the city to make precautionary measures. Savaris observed the expressions of the city police. It was hard to discern their expressions as the helmets blocked off their faces, but sometimes their lips and heads moved. That wasn't the only thing. Savaris might have reacted slower because he reacted to anything dangerous even in his sleep, but the tension of the city police was influencing the crowd.
I see. Seems to be the case.
Why is it like that?
Well, we couldn't do anything, even if we knew.
He said in a relaxed manner, feeling as if a cold bucket of water had been upended on her curiosity. She waited for the check with displeasure. She waited for a long time. This wasn't the only facility with living quarters. If other places were undergoing the same process, Myath probably didn't have enough people for the job. She waited while thinking of other irrelevant things, and finally, it was her turn. The tea room in the reception hall was taken to be used as part of the checking process. The tables were taken away and only 5 were left. Leering was led to the table on the left-hand side to face the same young man.
I'm Leering Marfs.
Liren sat down. Another city police member took out the luggage that looked like Liren's, along with a document.
Sure.
His voice was gentler than when he gave the speech, but it was still the voice of an official. Perhaps he was always like this.
Crendon, as for residents?
She gave it too, but she felt strange about it. They were in Myath. What was the point of giving them her address in Grendon?
Roy nodded at the document in his hand. Liren felt relieved. Ah, I see. He's confirming whether it's me. A document confirming Liren's identity was in her luggage. Since they checked her luggage, they must have found the document too. Woo, they couldn't have checked my underwear too? Woo, they couldn't have checked my underwear too?
Everyone had enough space to sleep in the roaming bus, but it was still just a vehicle for transportation purposes. It didn't have all the conditions to satisfy a good living. Clothes and washing gave Liren a headache. Water was the most valuable in a roaming bus. There was a simple tap, but the water was cooled by the engine and recycled. Hot water was also made through absorbing the heat of the engine, so it wasn't possible to wash clothes or shower. Besides, water was shared by other passengers. Liren's clothes smelled... She couldn't do anything about it, though. Other passengers were the same. Her underwear... Either way, she had to put up with it.
But that was inside the roaming bus. She had already sealed up her clothes in special bags. Since this was a check, the city police might have opened those bags too. Woo!
Nothing.
Roy was doing the asking, so he didn't have time to open her bags. Someone else must have done it, such as the person who took her luggage to here. That made her so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole and hide there. Roy looked tired. He had asked the same questions of different passengers. His questions were casual, but sometimes he'd ask some serious questions. Liren felt tired too. Roy said, and Liren sighed.
He took out something from her luggage.
Ah.
She had wrapped it carefully to prevent damages and had put it deep inside the luggage, the box that her adopted father Derek had given her. Roy opened it cautiously. Inside was a detail.
I suppose.
She thought of how to reply and decided to give such an answer.
His gaze sharpened. He looked at the document. Did he suspect her to be a military artist using a fake identity? She calmed herself down and looked at him.
I was asked to take this to someone, so I left my city.
Zuellni. You mean,
What relationship? Siblings? Probably, since they grew up in the same orphanage, but Derek, the former head of the orphanage, didn't put down their names in the official documents as his children. He registered them using their own names. Hence, Layfon and Liren weren't siblings in the official document. Childhood friends, that should be the safest answer? Childhood friends? That should be the safest answer?
My childhood friend. That's got nothing to do with you.
He apologized in embarrassment. Liren was angry about it, but it was her first time seeing Roy show an expression other than his official look. Being released from the sweaty smell of the roaming bus, she had planned to relax in her room if not for this sudden event. She was happily planning to have a good shower, but was instead taken to the reception hall. And someone else had looked at her underwear. This level of revenge was her due. But the strange feeling of satisfaction was broken in the next second.
Why? Will you give it back to me?
Meaning they were treating her as a criminal, more like a criminal candidate? So rude! She glared at him.
What proof do you have to do this?
His coldness and the way they were investigating everyone meant the investigation wasn't going well.
Stop joking.
She said. She hadn't turned away and left. There weren't any roaming buses leaving Myath, and even if there was one, the city police would have stopped her from leaving. Liren gritted her teeth and swallowed her words.
Then, are you done with the questioning? Yeah, then I hope you can catch the criminal soon. Though I don't know whether you can do it.
She spit out her displeasure and stood up. Returning to her room with irritation, she thought back to the question Roy had asked her. Why were the people of Myath so worried? This event, Chapter 2, The Appearance of a Butterfly. He gazed down at the street that he didn't know. The layout of this city was different from Grendon. The buildings randomly stretched to the outskirt of the city. From the layout revealed a city occupied by humans. Only half-assed people could make such a half-assed city, an academy city. Only less capable military artists were allowed to leave their home city, and leaving did not guarantee growth.
How refreshing. Oh, that is a matter of fact, too.
Severus confirmed his location, looking at the unfamiliar street. He stood on the roof of a building. All of the buildings in this area were built quite low. The best place to observe the city was the top of the building in the middle of the city.
Speaking of which, my brother is in an academy city, too.
Savarius' younger brother, Gornio Lucans, was in Savarius' next destination, Zuellni. Savarius had used this to back his reasoning for the queen to send him instead of anyone else, but he had forgotten it while he was riding the roaming bus.
That spoiled kid just needed to peacefully grow into an adult, but he didn't like his home city.
His expression lacked worry. When he became a Heaven's Blade successor, he gave up his identity and responsibility as an older brother and turned to the path of making himself stronger.
He was the older brother, but he lacked the authority to care for his younger sibling. This cold atmosphere of his was real. Leading aside the thoughts on his brother, Savarius turned his attention to observing the streets of Miath.
I heard other cities are more peaceful, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
The atmosphere here didn't match the streets. Palpable disquiet hid within the silence.
Whether it was in this city or in the city he was about to arrive at, Zuellni, Savarius felt the same thing. He was a Heaven's Blade successor, one of the 12 strongest people in Grendon. Originally, no Heaven's Blades were allowed to leave Grendon as they existed to protect the city, but Savarius had accepted the queen's order to retrieve the Haikisoku from Zuellni.
The Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang had left Grendon for a long time. They were the ones who brought the information to the queen that there was a Heikizoku in Zuellni. And Gornio was the one who asked the mercenary gang to take this information back to Grendon. The madness of an electronic fairy that had lost its city can bestow upon a military artist great power. Savarius was interested in this point, in becoming strong.
Although his thinking wasn't wrong as a Heaven's Blade successor, he himself showed something unusual. Savarius did not have the sense of mission to protect Grendon. He fought with all his strength in fights against filth monsters, but to him, that was training to increase his strength. Trial, training, practice. He continued to train himself in the process and was not interested in anything else. The existence of a Haikizoku could become his strength through more training, and that suited his appetite. That was why he left Grendon. Originally, he wouldn't have bothered even if such strength existed. However, Savarius couldn't ignore its existence because of the present ranking of power in Grendon.
But I really want to give it a try.
Could he really just borrow that strength?
Really worth anticipating. Jeez.
He thought of that day coming and his shoulders shook, but there was a problem he must first solve.
So troublesome.
The city police of Miath had forbidden anyone from leaving the facilities. Savarius wasn't allowed to be here, but the city police didn't have enough people to monitor everyone's movement.
Even so, it wasn't impossible to tour the city in a relaxed manner under surveillance. He wasn't lax as Liran had thought, he just never paid attention to the youngsters in the city police. They were only terrified under what they thought were dangerous circumstances. That feeling held no value for him. The air suddenly turned agitated. Something must have happened. For example, he turned around and saw it.
So troublesome. But how interesting.
Directly in his line of sight was a huge pillar, one of the city's legs.
You can't cover up that sound.
As he gazed at the city's leg, he departed from the rooftop without turning around. It was almost time for the city police's patrol to come around. 2 days had passed since then. Lirine's anger remained with her. The situation hadn't turned in her favor, and that made her more worried.
Just what's going on?
She sighed in through her pillow. She had gone to have breakfast at the appointed hour, returned to her room after that, was never allowed to leave her room before lunch, and had dinner afterward. It was suffocating. But since she was an outsider in this city, she had no choice but to bear with the situation. Still, knowing she had no choice did nothing to stop anger from churning in her stomach. Having asked about the current situation, she returned angrily to her room and checked her luggage. She had washed her dirty clothes and put them out to hang. The first day flew by her quickly. The second day, however, went by slower. She had already finished reading the books she brought with her during the trip in the roaming bus. She didn't have the mood to reread them. Reading them would just remind her of the time Roy took away the dite. Unable to concentrate, Liran didn't do anything, but couldn't leave the room. She was so bored and listless that she wouldn't even turn on the bed.
Ha!
She could only keep sighing. Why was she so out of luck? She could do nothing but sigh. Sighing took her nowhere. Without food,
People would look for seeds and plant them in their gardens. Without money, even children would go look for work. Because of that, the orphanage managed to survive.
Should I find a way?
About the diet, forget what would happen. She first needed to calm that feeling in her stomach, but she would get caught if she went to steal back the diet. The act would make her more suspicious. In that case, she'd have to make good use of the time she had.
Too reckless.
She made an immediate decision. First, she wasn't sure what the situation was about. The city police said some important information had been stolen. But judging by the high level of tension of the city police, there was more to the story. It was an atmosphere that suited that type of event.
What is it? What's been stolen? That they're so agitated like this? Perhaps the thing about an information thief is itself a lie.
If it wasn't information, then...
Could it be a weapon?
If it was a dangerous weapon like poisonous gas, the problem would be different. Other cities would probably destroy Meath if information on Meath inventing poison had leaked outside. If not, at least Grendam would take action. This was written as law, but poor management would see poisonous gas spilling into the air of the city itself and destroying it. An Academy city probably wouldn't do that.
So, that can't be it.
If it was weapon, the leaking of the information or the weapon itself would cause huge problems, but that shouldn't be the case. Leering must have been affected by watching too many movies. Her deduction really suited a civilian who didn't have the strength of a military artist. Encountering this unexpected event right after she arrived at Meath made her unable to sleep. She headed for the canteen for lunch.
Ah, you look horrible!
I don't know why, but I can't sleep.
Being half asleep really was bad for her. Her wavering consciousness had pulled her to the canteen.
That won't do. Is it because of the change in environment?
I'm not sure.
It might be the change in time.
Savaris said, happily watching the buffet lunch. Numerous dishes were laid out on the table.
So much food! I can eat a lot!
He differed from Liren, who had had little food. She drank some juice and lost her appetite.
It's good to keep some strength. Won't do if you faint on foreign soil.
That's true, but...
Still, she'd never be able to eat as much as he, and she'd get fat. But she really did eat too little. Thinking of her amount of exercise, she filled her plate.
That aside, how much longer is this going to be?
Liren sipped her tea and observed the canteen after lunch. Only the people living here and the city police were in the room. The chefs had put down the food in the facility and left. People who came in late could only eat from what was left on the table. Not much food was left right now, but that was enough for Liren.
We'll probably have to wait till the criminal's caught.
I want to know when the criminal will be caught.
Even I have once cooperated with the city police, so I'm familiar with the actions they are taking now.
He said and blew at the steam rising from the teacup. He took a sip. It appeared he didn't like the tea to be too hot.
I understand that point, but...
That was why the facility where Liren and the other passengers stayed at was being monitored.
But, probably, this event is different. They check the luggage of everyone. The criminal might not be here.
Then...
Or the information they're looking for isn't in a data chip. In that case, the problem is not the same.
Huh?
Meaning they know some information is stolen, but they don't know what it is. That's why they're worried. That's the feeling I get.
Is that it?
What would it be?
His answer confounded her. The city police had even taken away his diet, but he didn't look troubled at all.
Either way, I hope they can resolve this situation soon. If this continues, we might miss the next roaming bus.
The bus that came after the next bus might not go past Zuellni. Having drained the cup, Liren stood up. She didn't really want to drink any more tea, but she refilled her cup. Since the city police would take her back to the room anyway, she might as well sit here for a while more and enjoy the atmosphere with someone else. And as such, her gaze met a girl's. That girl was standing in front of the table of food. What is it? The girl was looking around with a troubled expression. Does she not know this is a buffet? Liren approached the girl. She did it because the girl was about the same age as her. Most of the passengers were adults and the youngest was about Savaris's age.
Can I help you?
The girl looked shocked and turned to her.
Nothing?
Quite a tomboy. She had short golden hair and a neat countenance.
Knives and forks are over there.
I see. Sorry. Thanks.
The girl headed for the utensils.
You're close. If you had come later, lunch hour would have ended.
Is that so?
As the eating utensils were placed near the drinking area, Liren followed the girl.
Huh?
What is it?
Sorry. I'm Liren Marfus. Please look after me.
Nina's expression changed when she heard that name.
What is it?
No. Could it be? But totally different. No, even so. Sorry. It's my own problem.
Really?
The two of them laughed.
If it's okay, can I take that empty seat? I want to find someone to chat with.
Sure.
Liren returned to her seat. A strange expression crossed Severus's face.
Liren, son, when did that person appear?
Huh?
She looked back. Severus was watching Nina.
Just then.
No, I didn't mean that.
He said with his chin in his palm.
She appeared the moment you stood over there.
Did you oversleep?
She said without thinking, but Severus didn't seem to feel offended. His serious gaze, so different from usual, stared at Nina. Liren held her breath. The tension between her and Severus became more intense. While worrying whether anything was going to happen, Severus turned back to his normal self and smiled.
Please don't worry.
Don't scare me like that.
She did feel like a fight was coming in that one swift second.
I'm also suppressing my worries. Anyway, see you later.
He smiled lightly and left.
What the?
She drank to calm herself. Nina came over.
Your friend left. Is that okay?
It seemed she was concerned with Severus. She probably took note of his action.
He isn't really a friend. We just came from the same city, that's all.
Nina sat opposite her.
You must feel bored with this sudden event. Nina's hand that was putting the piece of bread in her mouth stopped. She looked around.
About that.
That was what she said.
Yes, the situation is a pain. I came here to take another bus originally,
It can't be helped with a problem arising in a city.
but it's interfering with other people.
Is this related to her? Thinking of that, Nina slowly grasped hold of this situation.
Is Nina a military artist?
Only a military artist would be so stubborn.
Ah, yes.
As I thought, I was guessing.
Nina felt like the military artists in Derek's dojo. She was female, but her words lacked liveliness. Only a military artist was like that. A strange expression daunted on Nina's face.
Is my attitude haughty?
It seemed Nina herself hadn't realized.
True. Perhaps I'm more like a military artist compared to him.
She lifted her head.
Speaking of which, that man with you is also a military artist?
Yes. He's strange, but he's very strong.
Stronger than anyone in this city.
Does he not look like a military artist?
A bit flippant. Laren shook her head.
But you can't really tell a military artist who is truly strong. I know such a guy. He doesn't look much, but when something happens, he's more reliable.
Nina said with a gentle light in her gaze. It seems she likes that person. Liren thought, taking note of the gentleness in Nina's voice.
Speaking aside,
Nina looked at her after her lunch.
when did this city become like this?
Liren reacted at that sudden question.
What are you saying?
She put a hand on her forehead and explained her circumstance.
I know this city is in a crisis. That's why I'm here. There's something I must do. It's like I'm suddenly in a dream. Do you understand? I don't even know the reason behind it, but I must do something. It's a dream like that.
Liring did have a dream like that.
I had a dream of making 100 pies because guests were coming. But in reality, my room isn't big enough to fit so many people.
It was at the time when she moved into the dormitory of the new school. It must have been the side effect of being released from a huge amount of household chores.
I feel like I'm in a dream now.
She didn't understand what Nina said.
But, Liren, you've helped me confirm my current location. This is real, and that's when my mission comes to me. I see. That was why that person appeared before me.
She appeared the moment you stood over there. Severus's words surfaced in Liren's mind.
Just what are you saying?
That can't happen. A person suddenly appearing out of nowhere. That's unbelievable.
I know it'll cause you problems saying this all so sudden, but since I came here like that person and you've confirmed me, then you might be the one to lead me to the fight.
As I was saying?
I see, yes. Then I don't need to know what's happening in this city. Geez, I got caught in something troublesome.
I have to go.
Laren stood up. Nina nodded lightly but didn't move.
But he should know where I was headed. Does that mean I still need to know what's going on?
While Nina was mumbling to herself, Liren left the room with the crowd. She glanced back as she was about to leave the room. Nina was gone. Only the dishes and eating utensils were left on the table.
Zuellni was on a rampage, meaning Layfon was still fighting filth monsters. An unexpected large number of filth monsters were outside Zuellni. Was Zuellni deliberately heading towards filth monster nests?
Either way, we're in a crisis that we've never faced before.
Carrion said after the end of the student council meeting.
We're at our limit hiding the truth since the situation hasn't alleviated.
Vance said, sitting on the guest sofa.
True?
Carrion put his hands together.
The Haikizoku. It was originally an electronic fairy like Zuellni, but it was twisted by hatred after filth monsters destroyed its city. It had now become a consciousness that held intense enmity towards filth monsters. The Salanvan Guidance mercenary gang was here to capture the Heikizoku living in a military artist's body.
No.
Carrion shook his head.
It's not right to sacrifice someone to protect the city. At least that's how an academy city operates. This and that might be two different things. That's the fate we, as living beings, cannot escape from. That can't be.
Carrion smiled at the expected answer.
But do you think he'll accept it?
A reality they both knew. Carrion shook his head again. He wasn't rejecting it. He was just shaking loose the feelings inside him when he thought of that someone.
No matter how strong he is, what one person can do is limited. That's the way it is.
Vance nodded with a bitter smile.
In that case, we'll gather all the platoons and explain to them the situation, and then organize a special team to handle the filth monsters. Is that okay? Yeah, I got it.
Carrion stood up and watched Vance leave. Now only he was left in the room of the student president that was situated in the highest place in Zuellni. He could see the whole of the city from up here. Most people who held high positions in a city had a room in a high place. That was the proof of someone with authority.
But authority will be destroyed once the earth stirs.
He murmured with an I give up expression.
People only have two legs, but the city, of course.
He returned to the desk and started working on a pile of documents. The first who fell was Feli. That couldn't be helped. If the city didn't remain vigilant all the time, it might come across a matured filth monster without warning, like before. But Feli felt that she must not leave her post even after the crisis had passed. And she had also gone to see Layfon fight, in addition to leading him there. Although he didn't need much of her help during the fight, it still made her tired.
Sorry.
Feli said with a stiff face as she lay on the hospital bed.
It's not your fault, Layfon said. All the guests had left, leaving him and Feli alone.
No.
The explanation behind Zuellni's madness was that it had something to do with the Haikizoku.
About that, it should be my responsibility. I asked the captain to go.
They fell silent. None of them wanted to be comforted. What could they do as compensation? They wanted to know, but they didn't.
How strange. How strange. I used my power unwillingly, but now I want to recover quickly. I can't calm down resting here.
The sheet covering Feli had creases on it, results of Feli's anger and frustration.
I can't tolerate my mistakes, but is that just a problem of pride? Or am I regretting putting that person in danger? I don't know.
She shook her head weakly. Her face was unusually white. She closed her eyes. Her long eyelashes looked wet. Layfon couldn't answer her. All he could do was sit beside her.
I'm just a bit tired. I'll recover once I get some rest. Layfon, you should get some rest too.
Yeah? Just what am I supposed to do? He must do something. Agitation made him unable to sit still. He had to do something, but he didn't know what to do. He felt like he wanted to dig up Zuellni from the city. What can he do? Damn! As if fleeing, he started running without a destination in mind. He ran like a mosquito, not knowing where it was flying towards. He could do nothing but run. Nina's disappearance had something to do with the Haikizoku, but he knew nothing beyond that clue. Zuellni's unusual actions were also associated with the Haikizoku. Why? Now? If he had handed Din over to the Salanvan Guidance mercenary gang during the match with the 10th platoon, this wouldn't have happened. Feli wouldn't have fainted. Zuellni wouldn't have headed for filth monsters. If he had handed Din D over, damn! When he stopped running, he realized he was at the city's edge. He had no path left before him.
The boundary of this sealed world had stopped his running, but Nina was the one who refused to hand Din over. Of course, this wasn't just her own intentions. Carrion had also agreed. An Academy City could not let its student die.
But if they had handed Din over to the mercenary gang, they wouldn't be facing this crisis now.
Everyone thought their actions were right back then, but now Layfon wasn't sure. What was he doing back then? He fought Haya to make Nina's wish come true, and not only that, he also held the weapon that he decided not to use anymore, the katana. The result was this present situation.
Why did I...
He was like that in Grendon too. He did something shameful as a military artist to get money for the children in the orphanage. After being exposed, he was stripped of his position as a Heaven's Blade and was exiled from Grendon.
Why is the same thing happening again?
He gave his all for some goal, some person, and reaped a different result? Had he not done well enough?
Carrion only asked him to win in the next military arts competition to resolve the shortage of selenium mines that Zuellni had. Entering Nina's 17th platoon was just a part of that plan. Layfon's goal was now different from when he first entered Zuellni, but he thought he could change that goal in the end, in order not to lose the place that could change his reality. But Zuellni now faced destruction. Not yet. We haven't lost yet. He said this to himself. To himself, who was in the bottom of the pit called despair. He was reaching up for the rim that was called hope. It's not lost yet. There's still something I can do. He had to do his best for what he could do, and that was to protect Zuellni, protect the place that Nina would return to. He had to find a psychokinist, but only Feli was able to provide him with perfect aid. He couldn't trust anyone else. Feli had provided him support in battles. He hadn't worked with any other psychokinetists before. Layfon could tell how the larva worked by taking one look at them, but a psychokineticist was needed to foretell an imminent attack by filth monsters. Now he had to react by his instinct. Feli had never cut off her support before she fainted. He wanted to do something, but he couldn't. He couldn't think of any other ways. I have to ask the student president to provide another psychokinesist. He turned around and...
Huh?
Something stabbed him in his chest. Pain flared. A tiny something that looked like a syringe. Layfon's vision blurred.
What?
Darkness descended. Chapter 3. Birds in a Cage. A bird was knocking on the window with its brown beak.
How rare.
Liren said and immediately walked over to the window. It was a bird small enough to fit in her palm.
A wild bird. Or is this somebody's pet?
It was rare to see birds flying in Grendon. If a bird was left alone, it might get sucked into the air purification system and die. People could tame birds and train them to avoid the air purification system, but that wasn't usual in Grendon. Liren opened the window carefully, making sure not to scare the bird.
Coming in?
The bird hopped over the windowsill and entered the room. It flew in a circle underneath the ceiling and stopped on the cabinet by the bedside.
Come over.
Liren spread her hands. The bird looked at her fingers and hopped onto her palm.
If you always do that, someone might catch you and eat you.
She caressed the bird's head and feathers. The worry and frustration in Liren from being locked in a room vanished.
The color of the bird resembled that of tea, but white feathers crossed its chest to its face. It looked funny when its long tail moved. On the top of its head were golden feathers shaped like a crown. Having enjoyed the fun that the bird brought over, Liren stretched her hands out the window. A flock of similar birds were on the opposite side of the facility.
Go back to your friends.
The bird peered out, spread its wings, and flew out. Liren was still confined in the facility. Every day she walked from her room to the canteen and back, as if she was locked in a prison like a prisoner. 10 days had passed since she met Nina, but the investigation hadn't made much progress. But irritation rose in her. It wasn't dissatisfaction, but it still filled her up inside. Most of the people in the canteen held the same feeling. They looked around and their conversations became louder and louder. The expressions of the students monitoring the crowd became stiffer and stiffer.
Probably Liren and the other people living in this facility knew nothing of what that portended. For some reason, she just couldn't calm herself.
The quality of her sleep had also diminished. The people here would not be able to catch the next roaming bus if the situation wasn't resolved soon. That would be very troublesome. But Myeth couldn't possibly hold them here forever. The next roaming bus would bring more people. The increasing number of people detained here would increase the tension at the facility, and food shortages would arise. So, this holdup would not be long. That was what some of the more schooled passengers said.
However, that person was also peering at the students, monitoring them with impatience. Just what was his unreasonable uneasiness? Anyone would want some information about the situation.
Speaking of which, that girl.
calling for me?
Liren looked back instinctively at the voice. Nina climbed in from the window where Liren had let the bird go.
Ah!
Liren stepped back from her. Shocked, she lost her balance and fell onto the bed.
Careful.
Nina caught her wrist.
What?
Are you all right?
What are you doing?
Liren said, scolding Nina for her lack of common sense.
Investigating the city?
She replied firmly.
Huh?
I said before that it was okay if I didn't know the situation, but on second thought, I should check it out. Just in case that time comes, it would be more convenient to move around.
Saying it so matter-of-factly.
Investigate? Eh? You mean...
Liren looked out the window. Nina nodded. Outside laid the streets of Mayath.
When to check it out?
Still the calm voice.
It's not my style to sneak around, but I had no choice in this situation. I have a good grasp of the current situation.
Then what's going on?
Liren turned sideways for the information that everyone in the facility wanted to have.
This city has stopped moving.
Eh?
Nina didn't say anything more. Regios moved on their own, drifting around in this world to escape filth monsters. Human beings once seemed to be in charge of this world in the distant past. However, in the present, humans were only side characters, existing to decorate the main characters.
I understand why you doubt that.
She glanced out the window behind her.
All the windows here face the side of the city.
How can that be?
It was true. From the window here, Liren could only see the inside of the city. That didn't mean all the windows here faced the inside, though.
I haven't heard the legs moving. I couldn't see the legs, so it took a while to discover the problem.
Ah, so...
That probably explained the source of Liren's irritation and her lack of sleep. What always existed was gone, and that was affecting her body.
But... the legs stopping?
Regios had stopped moving. She had never thought of that possibility before. It was natural for a city to move.
I'm also shocked, but that's the truth.
Nina said, nodding.
City police wouldn't have been so agitated if it was just some machinery malfunctioning. The workers told me before that the structures of a city's multi-legs are mostly the same, so that possibility is very low.
Why?
Think, if it were just information theft, would that interfere with the city's movement? If that information was so important, there should have been a backup.
Ah, true.
If they really looked for something to steal, it must have been something unique to the city.
Unique?
Isn't that obvious?
She said with confidence. Liren shook her head. A unique thing of Mayath.
Ah, could it be?
A single phrase appeared to her. Something that she had never noticed, but Layfon had mentioned it in his letter.
An electronic ferry.
Can't be anything else.
Nina nodded. Electronic ferry, the city's consciousness, an existence full of mysteries that people nowadays had no means of creating. And that thing had been stolen.
But I don't get it.
Liren couldn't comprehend it. She had never seen an electronic ferry before, hence she wasn't clear of what it was.
I understand. It's hard to imagine an electronic ferry being stolen.
Yes.
It's hard for me to accept that. I know it's possible to lure an electronic ferry out of the mechanical department, but that's all I know.
Why?
Because...
Nina planned to explain, but suddenly shut her mouth and turned to the window.
What?
Liren followed her gaze and froze.
I don't know how they did it, but the electronic ferry's trapped.
You mean that?
An unbelievable sight stood before Liren. A wall separated the facility and the rest of the city, and above it were a large number of birds, the same as the bird that had flown inside Liren's room.
What's going on?
The flock of birds struggled madly like a huge creature. Flashes of light surrounded them. The birds called.
An electronic ferry.
Nina said and climbed out the window.
What are you doing?
I'm going to help them. That's why I'm here.
She slid out and pushed herself from the wall. The wall vibrated with the push of a military artist. Nina's figure quickly shrank and then disappeared from Liren's sight. The commotion continued. Liren could feel the birds' pain. And then the alarm rang in the facility.
Filth monsters. Liren opened the door. People holding their luggage filled the corridor. She quickly grabbed her own luggage and pushed herself into the crowd. Now that filth monsters were discovered, she had to head for a shelter. Besides, this wasn't Grendon. The city might be destroyed soon.
Everyone, please rest assured. The military artists of Mayath will take care of the filth monsters. Please stay calm and head for the shelter. You'll be helping us immensely by doing that. Roy's announcement might not make much difference as the crowd pushed around, moving out to the shelter. Shh!
Lirin-san.
Someone greeted her.
Severus-san.
Lirin pushed her way to him.
Let me escort you to the shelter.
Huh?
If I don't keep you safe, someone might get mad at me. This way, please.
He took her luggage, put her on his shoulder, and ran out.
Wait a minute, Severus. San.
Don't speak. You'll bite your tongue.
That?
Lirin didn't say more. Severus kept running. Not on the streets, but on the wall. The streets were full of people. It'd be hard to run fast there, but no one could imagine someone running on the wall. And Lirin was just a normal person. Severus ran on walls. He didn't stop even when he met a set of stairs. He just ran around it, rushing all the way to the front of the door.
Please be calm. The roads heading to the shelters are safe.
Roy shouted from the door. Lirin had no time to pay attention to Roy. She herself was experiencing something she had never encountered before.
You're tense. Has Layfon never done this before?
Absolutely not.
Ah, looks like you're very important to him.
Those are two different matters.
She denied, blushing.
Anyway, I had no choice.
What he said bothered her. Roy and the city police were too busy keeping track of the passengers to look at Lirin and Severus.
You said that if you don't keep me safe, you can't report to a certain someone.
You still remember.
How could I forget that?
That's troublesome. I would be very happy if you forgot what I said.
If you tell me who it is, then I'll forget it.
That's troublesome.
Severus said with a worried expression. She would have said, never mind, and given up in the face of a Heaven's Blade successor if she was at Grendon. But she was used to the personality of Severus during the long time they spent together in the roaming bus. She looked at him with an intense thirst for an answer. It couldn't be Derek. As Layfon's master, he probably knew Severus, but Lirin didn't think he'd do something like this. Speaking of which, she could never imagine a Heaven's Blade leaving Grendon. Derek would also be shocked.
Someone whom you also know.
It can't be Sonola-senpai.
Lirin didn't have that many friends at school. Only one name surfaced when she thought of someone who would know a Heaven's Blade successor.
Yeah.
Lirin wasn't surprised at the quick admission. She wasn't surprised at it being someone like Sonola.
Why?
Because something happened.
His words became less clear. The droplets of sweat adorning his face failed to escape her eyes. Sinola must have a hold over him. She felt sorry for Severus.
Thanks for the work.
No, not at all. I'm happy to help.
As the two of them chatted, Lirin found herself before the young man wearing the city police uniform. He led her and the others to the shelter. It appeared that the filth monsters hadn't shown up yet. The sight of the outside of the city greeted her. As the facility was situated at the outskirt of the city, the outside was the first scenery she saw. The city's multi-legs had stopped moving. Did anyone notice in this chaos? Nina said they stopped moving. She looked behind her. The flock of birds still flew in the same space, as if they were hiding in the shadow behind the facility. Thin threads of lines flashed around them. If the electronic ferry is really there, would the crisis be averted if someone could save the electronic ferry and return it to the mechanical department?
What are you doing?
Severus said, grabbing hold of her wrist. She stopped walking. The other passengers and city police had already left.
Severus-san, the city's multi-legs have stopped moving.
I know. I thought this might happen.
She widened her eyes at his curt attitude, but this wasn't the time to criticize his personality.
The electronic ferry is missing from the mechanical department. If we don't do something quick.
Where did you hear this from?
Nina, the girl we saw at the canteen.
Her? When?
Just then over there.
She pointed at the flock of birds.
She said the electronic ferry is there.
Why?
Don't you find that strange?
Severus's expression turned curious.
True. It's rare to see birds flying outside, but that's because they know there's no pollutants here. They have the instinct that tells them what's dangerous and what's not.
Then what is that strange light?
Severus's expression turned stranger.
There is such a thing.
Eh?
Lirin studied the flock of birds again. Yes, there was a strange light around the birds. The birds were still flying in circles to escape it. The light kept blocking their way.
Isn't the light there?
I don't see anything.
He didn't seem to be making it up.
But
She saw it. Was it her imagination? A doubt flashed by her, but the reality of what she saw remained there. She didn't think she had gone insane. Then what was happening here must be real. Besides her, Nina also saw it.
Let's go.
Savaris reached out for her, but she avoided his hand and ran.
Lirin, son.
Sorry, please take care of the rest.
He said something, but she wasn't paying attention. She just kept running in the direction of the birds.
Please, take care of the rest. How can I just leave it?
The queen gave him this order on the day before he left for Zuellni. She said it in a voice that prevented anyone else from overhearing.
Your priority isn't the Heikizoku, but Lirin's safety. If even a hair of her was hurt, think I don't need to tell you the rest. And you must listen to any of her requests as if they were my orders.
What a messy order. If Canaris had heard that, she would have been so mad.
If her request would cause her to lose her life, what do I do?
He asked, slyly. You must keep her safe and also carry out her requests. You've to guarantee both. Where's that heir of yours as a Heaven's Blade successor?
Nah, I'm not Linton's. I don't have that heir.
Shut up. Just do it your own way.
He was made to follow such an unreasonable order. Since it was the queen's order, Savaris couldn't just leave Lirin behind.
So what should I do?
The queen wouldn't let him go easily if anything happened to Lirin. Savaris could have escaped to other cities, but no other city could satisfy him like Grendon. So, he had to guarantee Lirin's safety and also carry out her requests.
Meaning, I'll have to handle the filth monsters.
Lirin probably meant for him to cover up her absence when the city police found her missing, but that would not remove the danger the filth monsters brought to her.
But if I have to get rid of the filth monsters, I can't leave her too far from me.
Besides, the queen had said Lirin was not to be hurt in any way, not even a hair.
Well, I just have to take care of the filth monsters here.
He looked around. This city relied on a K cannon to attack outside filth monsters.
This might cause me some trouble. I don't have my Heaven's Blade with me.
Without the reinforcement of a psychokineticist, even Savaris had no idea where the filth monsters were. Compared to a filth monster in its matured form, the huge number of larvae caused a bigger threat under this situation. This would be an easy problem for Lintons or Layfon, who had learnt Lintons' technique of the steel threads.
Interesting.
Had he had such a restricted fight before? Grendon usually sent out 11 Heaven's Blades in fights. Savaris could only spend a fraction of his full potential in those fights. However, the current situation was different. With this complicated situation, he must protect Lirin alone. The Parallel has original too, books of Adian and Excellence.
I see. The saying goes, what can be done is dependent on one's actions.
His mood swung to a more positive note.
Well, let's make a brilliant show.
He disappeared. Nothing obstructed Lirin's way, so she ran smoothly to where the birds were.
Wow.
The threads of light flashed around the birds. Lirin could feel more pressure as she drew closer. Found her. Not through her vision, but she heard the sound of military artists fighting. The sound of clashing steel cut into Lirin's eardrums. She instinctively covered her ears and crouched down.
It really is, you guys.
Nina shouted. Lirin could hear her even with her ears covered.
Numerous shadows suddenly appeared before her. One of them was Nina, holding 2 iron whips, and the other 5 people. Each person wore a mask resembling the head of a dog, and they each held different weapons. Lirin held her breath. She couldn't tell who was male or female. They all wore fighting suits with their heads wrapped in black clothes and their faces covered by masks.
Wolf Face! What is your aim?
So this organization was called Wolfface, after a creature that had almost gone extinct and only lived in books. Wolf, an animal that had once ran and hunted on the earth. Lirin didn't know who it was, but one of the masked people answered Nina. Our goal is the limitless battlefield. We must obtain what is necessary for that goal, such as the power you also know of, the Heikizoku.
What? You plan to destroy this city?
Nina said with shock. Her cheeks turned red. She ground her teeth as if they were about to spill out sparks. She glared at the wolf face.
We're not interested in that,
the masked person declared coldly. Liren trembled at the coldness that could ignore the lives of thousands of people living in this city.
You bastards! People can only live in Regios. How dare you destroy it?
The wolf face ignored Nina's fury.
Regios are not worth mentioning.
The Aurora field has made possible the Rexario belief. We're like ashes before Ignisus's dream.
All of the wolf face said at the same time in cold voices.
Can they communicate without words? The masks covered their faces. Is there nothing behind the mask? That was what Liren felt. Something that felt hollow, an empty personality, lack of emotion in their voices. They didn't appear to be zealots, but their voices were like those from a tape.
You said the Rexario belief?
Nina said, not swayed by the way the wolf face spoke.
Do you know of Rexario? Right. I see. That's why you're here.
What are you saying?
Nina said. They didn't reply, but spread their weaponless hands. Our meeting is sullied by something nasty, but the Aurora field will not deny a fighter, will fulfill the ultimate aim of military artists, world peace. Words that didn't match that dry voice. All of the wolf faces held out their weaponless hands to Nina. Their weapons were pointed at the ground, their hands stretched out to seek comrades. What would Nina do?
I can't believe you! There's no soul in your words! I don't know who made you this way, or if someone could be speaking through you. I don't know. But how can I respond to words that are soulless? How could anyone respond? Even if I think the same as you, I'll probably become like you in the end. Then, I'd be ignoring my will. If Ignasus is the one pulling your strings, then he's only someone who doesn't trust anyone. A coward who doesn't want to be trusted.
Her intense voice smashed against the masks of the wolf faces.
Then negotiation has failed. Seems so.
The wolf faces readied their dits. Their murderous intent rose quietly, adding a sense of heavy weight to the atmosphere. Nina raised her iron whips.
I know the electronic ferry is there. Since I know why. No, even if I didn't know, I wouldn't give it to you.
The killing intent became a whirl. Invisible power filled the surroundings and pressed Liren to the ground.
Ah!
Huh. Nina cocked her head in that tense atmosphere. Liren didn't know why, she wouldn't know, and the battle began.
Ha!
Sudden wind assaulted Liren and sent her flying. A wind caused by Kay crashing against Kay. I'm falling. Liren's body turned stiff.
Huh?
But what met her back wasn't a heavy crushing feeling, but just light pain. Are you all right? She opened her eyes and saw Roy. Roy had caught her in the air. He lowered her to the ground.
Why are you?
I saw you leaving, so I came over. His face turned serious. Liren looked at the battle that her eyes failed to follow. I never thought this would happen. It's a battle I can't take part in. Roy could follow the battle?
You can see it?
Yes. Very intense fight.
He replied calmly.
That girl probably has the advantage, but I can't bet the city's fate on the fight of one person. He took his gaze off the battle and walked off.
Where are you going?
The electronic ferry is where the flock of birds is. Then I just need to destroy the device keeping the birds there, right?
Ah, I see.
Liren couldn't do anything even though she had come over here. She ignored the sound of battle and followed Roy. In order not to get caught in the fight, they took a long way around to where the birds were. Everyone had gone to the shelters, so the buildings here were all empty. Roy opened the emergency exit and walked through it.
There aren't any other entrances to the shelters. I'll take you through another entrance.
Ah, thanks.
I should do this. I found out what was going on because of you.
His official attitude remained unchanged. They walked on a curved road.
Ha. So far?
Roy wasn't tired since he was a military artist, but it was taxing for Liren. She wasn't good at sports. Her stomach hurt from having to run and run again.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
She said with resentment, looking at Roy who wasn't even panting. The birds above them continued to struggle. Their voices rent the sky apart. Liren regulated her breathing and looked around. The device should be around here somewhere.
Yeah, I hope so.
Anyway, let's go and have a look. Can it be? An idea flashed past her, but it wasn't possible. Roy is part of the city police. Anyway, right now, she should look for the electronic ferry. Found it, Roy said. He was opening the lid of a drain. This must be one of the devices causing this phenomenon. A device that Liren could hold in her two hands sat in the drain. A cable was connected to it.
We just need to destroy this, right?
No need to destroy it, he said, grabbing the cable and unplugging it from the device.
Smoke and sparks issued from the device, along with some noise. Just had to stop the flow of electricity. Liren never thought of pulling the cable. Ignoring Roy's childish expression, she looked at the sky. The sound of wings beating above her. The light had disappeared. The birds scattered to gather in a new place.
The bird that had flown into Liren's room was also here. She recognized it because of the golden feathers. That bird flew to stop on her shoulder.
Nath? Roy, said numbly.
Huh?
This is Myeth. This bird. The bird on Liren's shoulder was the electronic fairy. Because the flock of birds was trapped, so it...
I see. I would like...
Yes, we must return Myath to the mechanical department.
Roy reached out his hand. A split second.
Freydau.
The bird's eyes flashed. Roy's fingertip turned black. Black blood dripped from where the skin was cracked. The small weight on Liren's shoulder swayed and the bird toppled. She hurriedly caught it in her hands. The electronic fairy had refused Roy? So troublesome. There was still a painful expression on his face. He stretched his hand to her. Can you return it to me?
I refuse.
She took a few steps back. She had wanted to just turn around and flee, but she knew he would catch up in no time.
I won't give it to you. I'll take it back to the mechanical department.
I can't let an outsider take it to the mechanical department. Hurry and return it to me.
Liren slowly backed away.
The electronic fairies refused you. You're hiding something.
Roy's expression turned calm. How do you know?
Because you can see it.
The light that surrounded the birds, Liren could see it, but Savaris couldn't. Everyone else was the same. It was a very intense light, caused by the filth monster's attack. That wasn't enough to solve the problem. Only Liren and Nina could see that light, and the only person left who could see it must be the culprit. I see. Looks like I made a mistake, he said without any feelings.
Who are you people?
That's my line. What's your aim?
Confusion caught her. You have no vein. You are neither a military artist nor a psychokinesist. Why are you in the Wheel of Fate, the sealed world made by the alchemists? You're just a normal person.
How
should I know? Without even the time to shout that out, Liren ran off with all her strength.
Chapter 4. The Katana Without an Owner. Tension that could explode at any moment filled the hall, the largest building that could house all the teachers and students. The biggest difference between this place and a warfield was that all space was occupied by chairs. The space was also adjustable through a mechanism built into the building. The floor would become sets of stairs during entrance and graduation ceremonies. The floor would become chairs when it was a famous speaker giving a speech, student polls, and any other events. Right now, the floor remained unchanged. The heaviness of the students and their chatting choked the air. The chattering ceased suddenly. A person had appeared on the stage. Silvery hair, Carrion Loss, the student president. The many screens above him were switched on to show his image the moment he appeared on the stage. As usual, he wore a confident and sly smile that caused the students to once again raise their noise.
Everyone, there isn't time to explain everything, so I'll simply convey to you the current situation.
The topic that had attracted everyone's attention was the situation of the city. The movements of the student council had been in a fluster since the end of the platoon matches. Everyone thought the student council had noticed that another city was near. Military arts competition. What was called a war that didn't take place in a competition zone. The opponent's entire city was used as a war facility, and that was the same with one's own city. Of course, people weren't allowed to destroy key facilities that sustained a city's operation. One would set out the boundary of war zones according to those rules.
The city's hiding something. Your room's on the edge of the city. It should be noisy every day.
You've probably all heard of some rumors. Some of them are real, some are false. Allow me to explain.
Silence descended on the hall.
Our city is currently in the middle of a group of filth monsters.
Small chatter, no huge commotion. Carrion thought there would be people wailing and moaning, but he understood immediately. It seemed nobody could imagine such a crisis. Light crying sounded from somewhere in the hall while they all waited for him to explain the details. At first, they were just a few girls, but even the boys couldn't suppress their emotions. Friends and lovers hugged each other. Many people had tears on their faces. This wasn't a situation that normal students could face. Carrion knocked on the microphone.
Everyone, it's too early to fall in despair.
The crying sound softened.
Yes, we're only students. We're immature, but we also have our military artists. People who can protect this city.
Platoons with Vance in the center of them replaced Carrion's image on the screens.
All platoon members know the current situation. They haven't yielded under it, but rather vowed to fight through this difficulty. Are you going to send them off with this expression, while they fight with their lives for Zuellni? I absolutely will not tolerate this.
Carrion's image once more filled the screen. His serious pupils pierced all students in the hall. The crying completely stopped.
Everyone, perhaps we're just normal people. We can only wait in shelters when our city's attacked. But because of that, we must trust our military artists. We can only send them off to the life-threatening arena. We can only do that.
Carrion didn't look at anyone below the stage as he left. Vance was waiting in the control room.
But it's the truth for them. You don't understand as a military artist.
Many of the military artists back in the hall were not in the platoons. At first, they were also agitated like the other students, but calmed themselves after listening to the speech. Carrion could feel the gratitude in their eyes.
If that can unite our will, then it would be very fortunate.
Carrion glared at Vance, noticing the sarcasm in his words.
Aren't you pessimistic?
Carrion had asked the Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang to train the platoons in fighting filth monsters. Paying the mercenary gang to fight wasn't a long-term strategy. Earlier, he only did it because of the urgency of the situation. Since this situation wasn't as urgent, the platoons were to fight, and that meant they had to undergo training. Haya had agreed to the request.
Of course. We'll accept such a safe job, Tilda.
That was what Haya said, but Carrion was uncertain of the outcome.
Can they fight now? We don't have much time left. We've to win.
Carrion watched Vance with his fist gripped tight. A smile adorned his face.
To bet on the honor of a military artist, that's what I wanted to say. Very good.
Vance responded to that unexpected praise with an "I have no choice" expression.
It's creepy how you were so honest with your words. What do you mean? Never mind that. I'm leaving the fate of the entire city to your people. I'm counting on you.
Carrion patted Vance's stiff shoulder and escorted him out of the control room. The next wave of filth monsters was very near. Vance and the platoons were currently undergoing intense training with the mercenary gang. Carrion confirmed the time. Most of the students should have already left the hall. The time for rest had ended.
Then, time to solve the next problem.
Carrion headed for the building of the student council. Many resting rooms were built into the building. He had a habit of using one since he always had to work overtime due to a busy schedule. He walked into one of the resting rooms.
What do you mean?
His voice was full of anger. Carrion thought his judgment was lacking when he received the report of Feli fainting.
He had let Feli go out to help Layfon when Nina disappeared. In the time when the city was on a rampage and the Salinvan Guidance mercenary gang was training the platoons, Layfon would have fought the filth monsters to protect the city even without Carrion asking him. He knew that once he saw Layfon's expression after hearing of Nina's disappearance, but he could not allow Layfon al-Saif to fall simply because the city had gone insane. All platoon members must receive training against filth monsters to buy some time. At that time, he made a swift decision and left Layfon's reinforcements to Feli. No, Feli would have done it even without Carrion's request. Those two needed to rest. Carrion's calculations were off a bit, but it wasn't at the stage where the situation became irreparable. Layfon was standing by his bedside. He was sleeping on that bed just a moment ago. Sharnid's anesthetic bullet had hit him. The medical team had then carried him to the bed, and he had slept for a week.
We did a checkup on you while you were asleep. The injury on your back isn't healed. It should have healed up, as you're a military artist, and that really makes me angry.
It was just a scratch.
Even so, it'll become troublesome if it doesn't heal right. So I ordered you to rest. I hope you listen to me. As for what to do during this time, I believe you've already heard something?
Carrion's gaze moved to the screen in the resting room. Nothing showed on the screen, but Layfon should have heard his speech in the hall.
The captain's there.
Layfon said, looking at the blank screen with hope in his eyes, and Carrion felt guilty of having to crush that hope.
Regret, anxiety, bitterness, anger pointed at himself. All sorts of negative emotions twisted Layfon's face. Carrion controlled himself and suppressed the complicated feelings inside him as Layfon lowered his head.
I'm not allowed to stay here.
No!
Then who's not allowing you? Layfon al-Saif.
That is...
Carrion stood up and continued his interrogation. He had to say this to prevent Layfon from returning to the front lines. He had to nail his weakness. She should be the one to do this.
I'm saddened that no one has said this to you.
What?
Layfon looked at him as if he was peeking at something.
The relationship between the two of them turned delicate. What was this guy doing in a situation where he might lose his head any minute? Carrion wasn't fearful of that. It was Layfon, but Zuellni wouldn't see tomorrow if Carrion didn't do something to fix Layfon's weakness.
The other military artists probably don't say much to you. You're too strong. Power overpowers everything. People don't care about your personality as long as you're strong, as long as you don't affect the normal operations of the city. For example, when you were in Grendon.
How come you knew? That thought showed in Layfon's expression. That was, however, very simple logic for Carrion. Layfon only participated in underground matches. No city would have exiled him because of that reason.
You're too reliant on your power.
Carrion knew of this at the time, when he read Layfon's application to enter Zuellni. General Studies. Layfon didn't know exactly what he wanted to do with his life. He had already reached the highest peak on the path of a military artist. Zuellni couldn't teach him anything more, but it was different for him, as his goal had been rejected by everyone in Grendon. As a result, he had arrived at Zuellni without an aim.
Why? It's because you don't have a reason to fight.
I already knew. I didn't come here as a military artist. Layfon growled. His anger was full of murderous intent, showing that Carrion had nailed the head of his true feelings. But if not for you...
You're right. I forced you back into military arts. I don't regret my actions. We do need your strength.
Then,
because of that, I hope you can use your strength more efficiently.
Efficiently? Do you mean for me to stay here and wait for filth monsters to eat me?
The result's the same if you overwork your body. You need to rest. Back to the topic.
What topic?
Don't run away, Layfon-kun.
Run away. I'm not...
Nobody would want to be trapped in a situation he himself finds hard to deal with. I forced you into military arts against your will. There shouldn't be a problem now if you were the person described in the report I received, but reality is different.
Waive all school fees. According to Carrion's original prediction, someone who was particularly stubborn about money would have accepted his offer. He might even request for extra compensation. Why? An opportunity to understand Layfon came up. What was Layfon al-Saif like? And the conclusion revealed itself in Layfon's attitude towards the commotion caused by the illegal drugs. You're outside of my predictions, someone even more innocent. Your reason to become stronger is also beyond my predictions. Carrion paused and breathed in deeply to hook Layfon's attention. He had used the same technique in the speech he made in the hall, but this action held a different meaning for Layfon. Someone who had failed and waited for the last strike.
You're making other people shoulder your reason behind your fight.
Layfon's expression twisted.
Whom did you blame for your failure in Grendon?
No, I'm fighting for everyone.
What mighty thinking. But can anyone really fight for people he or she hasn't met? Everyone means good friends, lovers, your basis of life. You probably mean these people, but who made you think like that?
Silence. Carrion had also anticipated it. The shadow of dissatisfaction had disappeared in Layfon after his battle with the larva. Carrion observed this in the platoon matches and in Layfon's battle with the filth monster in its aged phase. Just who had changed him? The answer came easily when he connected the two.
A fatal strike. Layfon sat down on the bed. Carrion regretted a little, wondering whether he had gone overboard. But there was no other way. Under this situation, he had to nail down Layfon's weakness. He patted Layfon's shoulder, didn't say any comforting words, and left the room.
But, if possible...
He seemed to want to say more as he opened the door. He hoped the wish could be granted. But that wasn't something he could give. The door wasn't locked. Layfon could leave anytime he liked, but he remained inert. He's relying on Nina's existence. He wanted to deny it, but abiding by Nina's decision was the truth.
Because she's the captain. Was he defending himself? Is it wrong to obey the captain's orders as a member of Team 17?
There shouldn't be anything wrong with it. But perhaps it's true. At the time when he was exiled from Grendon, the children at the orphanage looked at him as if he had betrayed them. That was a huge shock for him. He really did lose his reason to fight at that moment. His demand for himself had been denied, and he felt foolish for the improvements he made in military arts, which was why he came to the Academy City.
He had no clear goal and direction. He held an indifferent feeling for and cared nothing for Zuellni.
He had wanted to head for a shelter rather than fight when Zuellni faced the larva's assault. He fought because of Liren's letter, and that wasn't it. Liren's letter sparked his action. She confirmed that what he did in Grendon wasn't meaningless. She had acknowledged his goal in military arts. And what else was it that kept him burning? Military artists' principles to protect the city? Layfon cared nothing for it at first. In Grendon, he only fought to earn money to help the orphanage.
Then what made him decide to protect Zuellni, protecting Machen and the others' future, hoping that one day he could melt in that light of theirs? Why did he think so?
What is the purpose of our power?
Sweat drenched his hair. Anxiety filled his helmet. I can't calm down, Sharnid said as if he was speaking on behalf of everyone here. This was his third time wearing a protective suit at a distance so far away from the city. In all the other times, he only wore fighting suits for mock training inside the city. For most of the other people, this was their first time heading so far outside the city. And this was also their first real fight, but it probably was Sharnid's first time too. His previous fight with the filth monster in its aged phase was more urgent than now. But his responsibility back then was to take up the rear, not to really get involved in the fight. But that wasn't easy either. The gear used outside the city was lighter than what they trained with. It was the same gear used when Sharnid went to investigate the ruined city. The protective suit had good ventilation. Still, it was hot. He felt as if his throat was heating up and steaming. A tube inside the helmet allowed him to replenish the water he needed. The temptation to drink up tickled him, but he pressed it down.
Never thought you'd look so listless.
I envy you. How can I be full of confidence like you?
That is the basis of what makes a military artist. How can you easily let other people see your weakness?
Is that so?
Of course. You lack the qualities of a military artist. A military artist would naturally do all he can to protect the city.
Naturally? Probably. In truth, only military artists could fight filth monsters even though heavy weapons like cannons were placed on the city's edge. Those weapons should help somewhat against the thick filth monster shells. Still, that help was limited. Using them without strategies would mean the quick depletion of the city's resources. Hence, the cannons were only equipped in case of a scenario where they were needed. Taking that into account, military artists made up the biggest fighting force of a city. Naturally. Rather, you could say it's because we have no other choice. That explanation could only alleviate some of the tension. Still, there were people who hadn't yet prepared themselves with determination. For the sake of the city, compared to that, it's more understandable to fight for someone. For example, me, I fight for my lovers.
So you do hold the photos of all your lovers.
I just need to hold your photo and no one else's.
Go die.
You're so cold. This might be my last time with you.
If it's you, you'd probably live, along with the cockroaches.
Dalshina said icily, and turned around and left. Sharnid shrugged, then checked his watch. Not much time was left from the time the psychokinesist predicted.
Then, as you wish, I'll do my best so I can live as a cockroach.
And the order conveyed by the psychokinest came through to all platoon members. The platoon members took out their deets. Light sighing could be heard all around them. The battle had begun, and that message was sent to Zuellni. All students in the military arts course had been gathered as Zuellni's last shield in case filth monsters got past the platoons. Far away from the students in the military arts course, Layfon stood alone on the roof of the student council's building. The city held its usual peace from a viewpoint high above anything else. However, the atmosphere wasn't as lively as before. All of the students left behind had entered the shelters. Layfon's weapon harness was empty. The student who delivered his meals told him the student president would hold his debts temporarily. The sapphire dite, the shim adamantium dite, the adamantium dite. All of them. The student president didn't want him to make a move. He's serious. Carrion's determination to keep Layfon away from battle was apparent by not returning the dits to him even under this situation. Layfon was a bit uneasy with Carrion's action. He recently had a feeling of fear from not doing anything. I have nowhere to run. What could he do even if he ran away? He did tell Machen that he would return to general studies after Carrion graduated, but he had now lost that confidence. Am I someone who can't do anything without the katana?
Another way to put it was from the moment when he was born.
What do you think? He turned around. Feli was here.
That kind of thing?
Her face was still pale. It might have been caused by her overuse of psychokinesis. Nina was the same before. I'm sorry for making you fight with me.
Feli shook her head. The wind blowing past the roof made her hair dance. She turned her head to keep the hair smooth and quietly moved over to his side. No weapon harness hung on her waist.
They took it away at the hospital. I was permitted to leave my room, but they banned me from using psychokinesis.
I see.
I can still use it even without my flakes. I don't have to use the flakes in a battle to support Fonfon,
she said, watching the city as she pressed down on her hair with a hand. Layfon looked at her with a, "What are you planning?" expression.
But it doesn't have to be that troublesome. I know the approximate location of my dite. I can restore it from a distance. I can even tell you accurately the number of scales on a filth monster.
Feli,
What?
Her hand was still on her hair as she turned to him.
I'll grant your wish. It's not because of someone's order. It's not forced. I'm not doing this for the city. My actions come from my feelings to work with you.
Meaning she wanted to aid him. But you don't have to.
Why?
Feli, you haven't fully recovered. Don't force yourself. And I don't have the confidence to hold a katana right now. He lowered his gaze. Karine was right. Even if he held a dite now, he probably couldn't take any real action. But perhaps he could do something if he did hold a dite. He felt that influence from Feli's words. She'd fight even though her body was not in a condition for her to fight.
I see.
There wasn't any disappointment in her voice.
In truth, I'm a bit lonely.
Huh? Feli's gaze turned to the outskirt of the city. Layfon didn't know whether she could see that far without using psychokinesis, but she said with a frown.
I said before that I have to use psychokinesis. I don't wish to become a psychokinesist, but my body makes me. I really don't like that. I also don't like my brother forcing me into military arts.
Yes, she did say that.
But when I am told not to use psychokinesis, I feel unexpectedly lonely. Even though I know this is just for a short period of time.
Her pair of eyes looking so far away did feel like they had lost something.
Fawn, our bodies were born to fight. It's a reality that we can't turn around. So we have to fight, or you could say we have to fight because of this body. What do you think?
About that, how could he know?
But what I can confirm is, the people over there are weaker than us. Have they already found their answer?
The immature military arts students who fought desperately against the larva. However, they did not run away. They gathered and did not abandon their battle.
Have we been abandoned?
If that's the case,
Darkness filled their future. Layfon shook his head as if he was shaking off that image.
I don't want to admit it, but that person is essential to us.
I hope she can return.
Yes.
Feli nodded, and the atmosphere in the air suddenly changed. A sense of danger pierced Layfon. Eh? Go inside the building! Hurry! He pushed Feli from behind and looked up at the sky. The air spun like a whirl inside the air purification system. A huge creature appeared above Zuellni after the whirl dissipated, at a place where no battle preparations had been made.
Filth monster.
Feli murmured, having lost her chance to run.
Oh no. The fear of death from Layfon's memory surfaced, a body like a lizard with strong hind legs and front legs that were smaller and shorter. A long neck sustained a head with a horn for assault purposes, a horn to pierce the sky. A pair of gigantic wings allowed the body to stop in midair. A matured filth monster. Layfon couldn't tell which phase it was in. It stopped in the sky as it surveyed the city. A filth monster that was more ancient than the one that Layfon and the other two Heaven's Blade successors had fought.
Can't win. Just by standing here, the pressure on his entire body caused him to instinctively make that conclusion. He couldn't win even with the Heaven's Blade in hand. I see. This is the real thing. This should be dealt with by the Queen of Grendon.
But what was more unbelievable came next. The filth monster spoke? The filth monster's voice drowned out Layfon, its voice covering the entire city, a voice filled with rationality and deep hatred that numbed Layfon's entire body. The city's movement stopped as if it was responding to the filth monster. The filth monster nodded at the shrill sound of metal clashing against metal that resounded through the city. The filth monster vanished from above. Chapter 5. The Center of the World. Lirin ran in the unfamiliar city. She ran and ran till exhaustion caught up to her and made her stop running. She panted, her lungs tightened in need of air. Her stomach hurt as if it were twisted.
I don't exercise enough.
She had been sitting every day in the roaming bus, and that fact hadn't dawned on her when she requested to leave the city. Now she didn't even have enough strength to smile bitterly. Roy smiled, standing 10 steps behind her. This was the same distance between them when the chase began.
Sorry, I can't do much about my strength. Shut your nonsense.
He stopped laughing. He wasn't the young man Lirin saw before. His twisted expression was revolting.
She still held Myath, the electronic fairy that had the same name as this city. The bird could have escaped far away by flying off, but it stayed in her hand, inert as if it were sleeping. The death of an electronic fairy was directly linked to the death of a city. A Regios that couldn't move would not be able to escape filth monsters. It'd be consumed sooner or later. Lirin trembled at that possible future.
What do you wolf faces want?
There was a mask in Roy's hand. How unconvincing. How pretentious.
What's that? It's okay to do that, even to sacrifice this city? You live in this city, don't you? This city might disappear. Don't you feel anything? Aren't you a military artist? How dare you say this? The people here are normal students.
Deep hatred showed on his face.
Who did Roy hate? Who was Roy being angry with? Insanity and madness spread across his countenance. He didn't look like a human being anymore. Liren retreated, but his words seemed to be hiding something. She must see through it. That was her way of escape.
To understand military artists, she thought of the military artist that was the closest to her, Layfon. What would Layfon do? She thought desperately as she distanced herself bit by bit from Roy. She had to protect the electronic ferry in her hand. Its death was the equivalent to a city's death. Military artists were usually the ones who protected it.
Ah, she understood.
I see.
She stopped moving and laughed. The forced laugh made her face twist.
That's your reason. You're wrong. That isn't a reason to abandon Mayath. That's the reason that you fell into such a state.
Roy's voice was louder than a normal person's voice. Strong wind assaulted Liren.
Pains revealed your true self? That of a weakling? You said it yourself. Fear, pain, the hell of military arts? That hell you mean intense training, don't you? That's simple then. What about the rest? Fear and pain. Of what? If you want others to understand you, you should show your feelings and help them understand you. As if I know. Why do you think so?
Silence. He had nothing to hold on to. Roy now swayed between his dignity and weakness. Liren had no confidence in how he would react. She was just taking a risk. That's my only weapon. And
Pain, you must have felt that during training. As strict as my adopted father's dojo, and in the end you couldn't get up. Then what about fear? Something that a military artist is afraid of. Fellow military artists? That can make you afraid. War, killing each other is horrible. But those who are asked to take the job are elites like the captain of city police. Besides, you can't feel that level of fear in a fight between military artists. In that case, what's left is…
her gaze moved from the sky to Roy. Roy's entire body trembled.
filth monsters. You ran away from filth monsters.
Liren's guess was right. It was beyond her imagination how much it had hurt Roy mentally. He ran away from filth monsters, probably while on the ground receiving an assault, fleeing from the horror of seeing filth monsters for the first time. Military artists were born to protect the city, so they were protected by many laws. Though that doesn't apply to Layfon. Grendon had countless number of military artists, so they only received the lowest level of insurance money. That money would increase shockingly if the military artist showed he had great strength. Layfon had given that money to the orphanage, so his and Liren's standards of living remained the same. They grew up together in poverty. Even so, he did not run away. Perhaps Layfon did feel that enormous fear, and he participated in underground matches in order to dispel that fear. He worked hard to keep the orphanage stable. Compared to him, this man, Roy, was so very weak. No, she didn't think being weak was a sin, but a military artist who lost to his weakness was even worse than an average person. He crouched and rushed towards her. He didn't need any weapon, just a fist would do. The K in his fist was enough to finish a normal person. Something blocked his attack.
How shameful!
It wasn't Liren. Different hair color, different voice, a sharp gaze pierced him.
Your attitude does sound like one who was banished from the original city. But being unable to face your weakness, you picked the easy path, didn't you?
Nina let go of his fist. Liren stood behind her. She was just buying some time. She knew Nina would come over to check the situation since the nest of light was gone.
They made something called N and used it to lure Mayath. An N for Schneibel.
Liren had won her bet.
You abandoned the city you should be protecting, you fool. Know your shame.
Roy stepped back with a speed that Liren hadn't yet seen. He had restored his daite into a sword.
I will, just like how I stopped you before. But I won't kill you. That would be the same as waking up from a dream. I don't plan to kill you.
Liren could only see Nina's back, but Roy, seeing Nina, showed fear in his face.
I'll deal out the punishment that suits your crime.
Roy was behind Nina, and his figure disappeared as wind in the next second. Nina hadn't moved. He had fled.
Is that okay?
No time to play with him. Besides, that's all I could do.
Is Is that true?
A traveler who came through any Lirin wasn't sure whether she got that right, but she knew Nina shouldn't be here. Nina already said that she felt like she was in a dream. Lirin didn't believe her back then, and now she didn't quite believe her either.
I can't explain in detail. This is my first time trying after all. I'm not sure of the exact details myself. I'm not someone who can be totally fair. I have a sense of righteousness. It might bring misfortune to my city sometimes, but this is different. This isn't what I wanted. I can't force other people to finish it. No matter what my true feelings are, it's some consciousness outside me that determines it. If I say it that way, I might be the same as the wolf faces.
You mean Ignacis and the Rigsario belief?
Liren said, remembering the conversation between Nina and the wolf faces.
Perhaps. As for Rigsario, I don't know whether it's a person's name or something else.
What's Rigsario?
Something from the city I was born in. In the Senu city Schneibel, there's a machine called Rigsario.
The target of the wolf faces.
And?
I haven't seen it, but Dad said it's the machine that gives birth to electronic fairies.
Huh?
The womb that the electronic fairy Schneibel uses. That's probably what Rigsario is. We have other electronic fairies besides Schneibel in my city.
But the increasing number of electronic fairies?
Electronic fairies travel as time passes to find their own cities. That's probably it. I myself haven't seen an electronic fairy that travels, though.
The inert electronic fairy in Liren's hand, small and weak, came to this city to give it life? The alchemists had made Regios, cities that the level of modern technology could not make.
Sorry, I didn't know it'd turn out like that. But electronic fairies are born in Rigsario. The wolf faces have targeted it, and that has something to do with their actions here.
So Nina's helping Myath because this has something to do with your city?
Perhaps. That benefits me, doesn't it?
You can't conclude with that.
Nina took action before she knew about the wolf face's aim. Some consciousness inside Nina had driven her to take action.
As I thought, you did it because you're strong. I know someone very strong, but he doesn't run away. I can't say where his bird is, but he's probably. I want to be strong.
That's wrong, Liren. Nina shivered.
Nina?
Nina's face was a shade of pale green.
No matter how strong a person is, he's the same if he has no reason to become strong. Besides, I'm not strong. Liren, you think I'm strong to fight the wolf faces? My power?
She crouched. Liren went to her and crouched down with her. Sweat beaded Nina's forehead.
I have something to protect, so I want to protect it. And then
What happened?
She frowned and stood up. Her face was still green, no signs of recovering.
Hurry, we're running out of time.
She walked away, and Liren ran to keep up with her.
He hadn't considered where to run off to. He just happened to be there while running away.
He was standing on the roof of a certain building, standing in the shade of a water tank. He gritted his teeth and breathed in deeply. Roy was born in a peaceful city. No filth monsters had ever attacked that city. The city kept a certain distance from other cities. Roaming buses only came a few times a year. The city rarely had outside influences. It was a city with peace as its pride, the city that Roy grew up in. Roy's grandfather had fought filth monsters in the past, telling them stories of those fights in the old days. Still, that city did meet filth monsters in the end.
The shocked military artists fought desperately. Wearing protective suits, they fought the filth monsters.
About 100 or so of them were dispatched, and tens of them died. Everyone fought in desperation. The elders who had had experience devised the strategies for the youngsters to carry it out. The fight had a miraculous win with just one stain. Tens of people died out of the 100 or so military artists, and one person fled.
Roy and Torio. In a battle they had never fought before. Everyone used all their K except Roy.
The death of military artists revealed the city's negligence in its defense despite the victory. Besides, the dead military artists all had families, and Roy and Torio fled the battle. The Roy who was an elite among the people of his age, those whom Roy mocked as being weaker than him, had rushed forward to open a hole in the filth monsters. They had died under the weight of the fallen filth monsters, and seeing that, Roy had fled, an escape that no one would ever forgive. And he had then come to Myath, sent to Myath like rubbish by his family. But the person he hated wasn't Nina.
He had never told anyone of his secret in Myeth, but leering Marphus had seen through him.
Ah, I see. This is what it means to fall. You act what you call righteous, switching good and evil around. So cute. A fall can't be a fall if it isn't this tragic.
Roy lifted at face at the sudden voice. The voice came from above.
Someone stood bending above the water tank. Roy hadn't noticed him. The person straightened and Roy could now see his face. He was the military artist that was with Liren, named Savaris Luckens.
How could I? I just happen to have time now. I'm not the type who works diligently. Unlike you, wasting time in a boring place. Well, I saw what you did. I saw it, and also heard what you said to yourself.
Roy was shocked, too shocked to feel the insult. He himself couldn't have seen and heard anything at that distance. Luckens had the kind of strong internal K that Roy couldn't even imagine possible.
I was ordered to protect her. Considering that you might harm her, I have to resolve this problem.
Roy retreated. He no longer doubted that this person was a military artist who was too strong for him. He thought back on how the city police had confiscated Luckens' diet, but did that mean anything? He wasn't sure.
It'd be good if things over there are settled. If possible, I want to settle this quickly too, since I can't predict the future.
Escape, Roy decided. No time to turn his back on Luckens. He kept retreating, stepping back. He would sustain heavy injuries if he accidentally bumped into any buildings while moving at high speed. He didn't even have the time to put K into his feet, and suddenly found Luckens' face before him. A pressure pressed down on Roy's head.
There's a strategy to retreat, but a military artist who likes to run away won't do.
Savaris said as he grabbed hold of Roy's head and shook it.
Roy found it hard to breathe. Unable to strengthen his body through K, he could do nothing but suffer the consequences.
I don't have the obligation to teach you. I do want to see how you'd react as someone who can do nothing but abuse the system of the society.
Savaris loosened his hold. Enough for Roy to breathe. But the next moment, he increased the pressure. Roy would never forget the feeling of having the bones of his head almost shattered.
Anyway, I won't kill you yet. Come with me for a sec.
Roy had no strength to struggle. It only took Savaris a few jumps to reach his destination. Military artists had assembled some distance from the edge of the city. Savaris let go of Roy. Being tossed onto the ground, Roy coughed. Before he finished coughing, he was back on the roof.
Looks like they're going to greet the filth monster's attack here.
Roy went numb.
I want to know what you do as someone who had fled a battle. What would you do next?
Savaris looked at the closest filth monster, widening his eyes. The military artists out there should be able to see it clearly at this distance.
Not much time till its arrival. Humph! Oh, can a military artist who has fallen once stand back up? You're a military artist of this city, aren't you? Would a military artist begin life anew, or head for the same failure? And after losing, can you stand back up and have a fresh start? And start preparing for this?
Savaris wanted to know.
If you don't get prepared, time won't wait for you.
The military artists outside the city called to each other to defend the city. They moved in a fluster. The shooting team began to fill in the K cannon. The faces of those in the fighting team turned green. Filth monsters were coming.
The condensed K cannonball hit the filth monster and exploded, shattering a number of scales. The filth monster's cry of pain echoed throughout Meath. Eyes bloodshot with outrage and pain, the monster headed for the city and was greeted with another K cannonball. The filth monster didn't halt its advance. With blood spurting from its body, it hammered through the air purification shield and entered the city. Savaris removed his foot from Roy's back. Roy trembled from head to toe. He could do nothing but give voice to his terror.
No way? Didn't you feel you were once an elite?
He crawled, hoping to move away from here. He wasn't even thinking of using K. No, perhaps he didn't even realize that Savaris had moved his foot from his back.
Savaris was bored of this sight. Savaris had shot Roy's body with small balls of K and shattered the bones of his head.
Just lie here and sigh about your current situation.
The Heaven's Blade successor jumped off the city to land on the head of a filth monster.
First phase, a mature form. I'm interested in the killing, but her word is the same as the Queen's order.
He sighed and put his hand on the filth monster's head.
Foo!
He released his K, external type K drip.
His K seeped slowly through the filth monster's scales and into its cells, beginning to destroy it from its inside. Savaris left. No one would discover what he did here. What Maya's military artist saw was the filth monster's movement slowing down. They had to seize this opportunity. All K cannons fired their shots. Explosions covered the filth monster. Its body collapsed and bits and pieces fell away as the dust cloud cleared. Someone should have been asking questions, but doubt disappeared in the tide of cheers. Savaris watched this from somewhere else. His gaze moved from the dead filth monster to Roy.
Is Layfon also as useless?
The Layfon who fought to protect and betrayed it all. Would he redeem himself or repeat the same failure? This was the only reason why Savaris was looking at Roy.
I don't want to fight a fellow Heaven's Blade successor, but I just don't want to disappoint myself.
He murmured and turned his back on Roy. How was Liren doing? He must hurry and confirm her situation. Nina was swaying by the time she reached the entrance to the mechanical department.
Are you all right?
Nina panted, leaning against the wall of the lift. Her face was pale, but her eyes emitted a light that showed she was fighting within herself.
Why to such a degree?
The downward lurch of the lift put Nina's internal organs into a wreck, yet she refused to give up and lose to it. She considered Liren's words.
Didn't I say it before? The power I possess now is far from what I truly am. Only in a dream can this power be realized, and the result is my losing to what I should have defeated, and my being protected by what I want to protect. This is a necessary experience to me.
The fighting experience. The experience to expose my weaknesses.
The experience to become another's strength. I lack all these experiences. Nothing is more important than the will to stick through to the end, and that's what I need to make up for what I lack.
So that was why Nina was tolerating it?
But Nina is strong.
Looking at the light in her eyes, Liren thought the strong will that she said was already in her grasp.
No.
And Liren saw the first tremor in Nina's gaze. The lift stopped and opened its door. Nina staggered out. Liren went over to steady her. She didn't refuse her help. They could smell the oil in the machines. Tubes covered the place in a complicated pattern. The path curved in between the gaps of the tubes. The dimly lit mechanical department gave off a pressuring atmosphere.
My comrade was injured in the mechanical department. At that time, I had a feeling of realizing my goal. That might not be the reason. I can't forgive myself. People probably think it's natural to borrow someone else's power when my strength isn't enough, but I can't rely on someone else's strength. I think that way, but I can't forgive the me that is like that.
Liren felt a strong sense of self-reproach from Nina, not allowing herself to lose. That kind of determination was Nina's most powerful weapon, and also her biggest weakness. For some reason, Nina's words put unease in Liren.
How about you relax a bit?
What?
I understand some of your feelings. In the past, I had thought of growing up. I wanted to become an adult so I could earn some money.
She had to work to help the orphanage. Though she couldn't earn a large sum of money like Layfon, as long as she could earn some, but I knew it wasn't easy to become an adult. My friend was like that. The living condition at the orphanage has improved, but he was exiled from the city.
Liren had a shock too when she heard Layfon had been participating in underground matches. But she wasn't as disappointed as the younger children in the orphanage. She just felt very painful that Layfon was shouldering everything himself. She smiled at Nina's shocked expression.
What he did has brought happiness to the orphanage. Even if he didn't do that, I thought it'd be better if we did something afterwards. The money he left behind was limited, but we could make preparations. I need to learn more so I can do more for the orphanage.
What she was doing now was for the sake of Layfon's past efforts. Hence, she had chosen to study.
Your comrades know what you try hard to do. It's okay even if you fail. It's all right to fail many times now so you won't fail in the most important moment.
Don't say that so easily.
Then failure can't be forgiven?
What?
I'll forgive. On the other hand, I know he thinks he can't be forgiven.
On the day when his deed was exposed, he kept mumbling, "Sorry," as the children from the orphanage looked at him with icy gazes. He had done all he could. His shoulders slumped, so lonely and tired. Watching him, Liren wanted to cry. She felt regret and resentment for not having noticed what Layfon had been doing.
Reproaching yourself is the same as reproaching others. That's what I think, so rather than reproaching yourself, Why not just strive forward?
I see.
Nina should have a lot of people that you worry about. You must lift your spirits for their sake.
Yeah. I don't know the situation, but I can't go back yet. For the sake of this?
She must save Mayath.
I feel like you're the hero of a story.
A story of releasing the world from pollutants. The tense atmosphere had eased.
Resolving different people's problems in a different place. I feel that what Nina is doing now is like what a hero would do.
My personality isn't that good.
Personality has nothing to do with whether something can be done.
Perhaps, but I'm still immature.
Liren smiled, admitting Nina was stubborn. The two of them finally arrived at the center of the mechanical department. Wrapped in thick planks, it looked like a small hill.
It's similar to the one in my city. Liren, has Mayath recovered?
She checked the bird.
Still weak.
The bird still couldn't stand. It could only move its beak. Was it because the supply of selenium had been cut off? Anyway, they must put it back quickly.
Yes.
Liren nodded and headed for the hill. Nina grabbed hold of her sleeve.
Come out!
Nina restored her deite to stand before Liren.
What a shock!
Someone appeared from the shadow, and Liren's eyes widened.
Thanks to you, my codes have returned to the Aurora field.
The man wore the mask of a beast. He felt different from the wolf faces. He felt alive. His meaning was clear. His eyes contained within them an intense goal like Nina's. A dazzling light shone in the depth of the mask.
I see. I can't defeat you people if I don't strike the real body.
That's the dream of Ignasis!
So you're staying somewhere safe while your clones fight? Ignasis really is a coward.
Military artists are not allowed to be cowards. That's unfair. The weakness of this world.
What did you say?
Military artists are people given the fate of war. Have you ever asked why? What's the difference between the strong stringed by fate and the weak? It is as if your fate is already planned by others. And you've never doubted?
Don't tempt me with words.
Negotiation collapses. No need to tempt you anymore. But you'll soon regret your ignorance.
His blade was like a saw. It wasn't made to cut, but to dig. Liren felt an evil air from that person.
Nina,
it's okay.
The greenish color remained on Nina's face.
The Heiki Zoku works for its own purpose. The collapse of the power balance must be painful. Isn't it natural to use what you have?
The man moved. Liren failed to catch his movement. All she saw was Nina being struck back, flying to crash into a tube.
Nina.
Stay back.
Liren retreated. She still had Mayath with her, so the man would probably chase after her. Nina's figure disappeared as the noise of fighting sounded from every direction. But if this continues, Mayath was still weak. It might die if Liren didn't take it back into the place, but she couldn't move with the fight going on. She didn't know how Nina did it, but Nina continued to fight.
What should I do?
Mayath was losing its body heat. Liren controlled herself. She must find a chance to close the distance. No, she breathed in deeply. She must not let the man win. With Liren's physical condition, it was impossible for her to run this distance. The life in her hand was trickling away. She looked for a sign of life in Mayath's gem-like eyes. The small eyes reflected something that she couldn't comprehend.
What is this?
But Liren saw it. She saw it, as if she was looking through a looking glass. Nina! But the sound of fighting continued in the mechanical department. Nina shouldn't be reflected in Niath's eyes.
What is this?
Something else covered Nina. A golden goat and a young girl with long hair.
What's going on?
The voice sounded in Liren's ears. She looked around but didn't see anyone.
Aikizoku, the man with the mask of a beast, had said so too.
Hatred against filth monsters. So the Heikizoku in Nina wants to destroy her body because it knows filth monsters are close?
But Nina chose to fight the wolf faces instead. Was that the reason that the balance was lost?
Liren didn't say anything, but something had answered her.
Are you speaking, Maya?
Mayath was the only choice.
A weak voice that did not belong to a male or a female, a neutral voice.
What should I do? How? This is connected to your life. Keep at it.
Called by that strong voice, Mayath answered weakly.
Huh? Then what?
Grendon had hidden an electronic fairy. Liren didn't know.
Pray, how?
No answer. She could only hear the sound of fighting and Nina's pain. Any information on religion was the legacy of a time long past. It was said that prayer could increase one's faith. Anything else was just an individual's wish. Hoping the day would sail by smoothly and peacefully was only a person's wish. It was useless if other people didn't think so. Saying anything in everyday words was meaningless if she didn't make a wish to a god or any other supernatural entities. Even so, Myath had told her to pray. Liren prayed. Nothing surfaced in her mind except for her wish for Nina to win and the Heikizoku to calm down. But who do I pray to? Myath mentioned the hidden electronic fairy, but what was it? Liren hadn't the memory of such a thing. In Grendon, she recalled the beast she saw in the night when Gahard attacked her in Derek. That was probably Grendon's electronic fairy.
If that was Grendon, then there really is an electronic fairy I'm unaware of. Because it had hidden itself, it wouldn't easily show itself before people. Now that I remember it, Sonola Senpai was there too. She chased the flitting memories of the past, recalling how she had fainted and woken up with Derek beside her. Was Sonola Senpai with her when she fainted? It seemed Sonola and Savaris knew each other. Liren didn't think it'd be so easy for a Heaven's Blade successor to so easily tell her of his mission. Then why was Sonola there? Reflexive thinking took her down the memory lane of her time with Sonola as their first meeting surfaced in her mind. Why did I cry at that time?
Liren had lost her way after the entrance ceremony and met with Sonola, who was lying on the grass. As she watched Sonola, tears spilled down her cheeks. It wasn't sadness, but a feeling threatened to burst out of her chest. What was it? She must recall it. That feeling.
Who are you? Why?
Liren's consciousness went empty the next moment. Nina kneeled at the intensity of the wolf face's attack.
For someone who can't control her KV, you've worked hard in this fight.
This is nothing!
This will of yours to fight against the Heikizoku is worthy of praise. But will alone can't take you any higher. We'll cut you down here.
As if...
Nina stood up and readied her iron whips. The weight she was used to in her hands turned painful. In the next moment, the iron whips lightened tremendously. It appeared the power inside Nina was unstable. The iron whips turned heavy again, proof of the instability of her internal case system. It was hard to move with this much pain in her.
The Heikizoku was inside her, and Zuellni was losing its control in suppressing the Heikizoku. The strength of a Heikizoku came from its hatred against filth monsters. If Nina's will was any weaker, she'd have ended up as Din. The wolf-faced man remained inert. He wasn't that far from the center of the mechanical department, but he chose to be cautious, leaving no opening for her to take him down.
I can't lose here!
She must return to Zuellni where Layfon and everyone were. Zuellni, a place where she had things she had to do and wanted to do.
No matter what it is, fighters who fight with a purpose wouldn't want to lose.
The wolf-faced man said lightly and blocked Nina's assault. His saw-like blade slashed at her left leg. She kept her distance from him. This was like fighting against a wall, and her condition was far from her best. Damn, she forced herself to stand up as she pressed down the despair in her. The pain in her left leg restricted her movement. She stretched her hand. She knew it wasn't easy to win against the Heikizoku, and that fight with it was preventing her from fighting against this wolf-faced man with her full potential. Despair. Strength that hardly matched a dream. The shadow of despair that had caught hold of her since the formation of the 17th platoon. She needed a strong sense of determination and resolution to dispel that despair and fear.
This is all I have.
How could she stop this reality? Nina stood up. To lose her heart and fall, that wasn't permitted. Who wouldn't permit it? Nina herself. She howled and stood up again. The wolf face hadn't moved from his position of victory. In silence, he swung down with his sword.
What?
They both felt it, and they both turned their gazes away from each other to look at Liren. Liren was praying, but her eyes watched somewhere empty, blank. Something had appeared at the line of Liren's sight. What was that? What was that?
What?
That attraction exuding from Liren wasn't that of Kay. That presence was hidden from others.
What? Can you be? I knew it. This isn't a joke. Ignasis knows you. So that's why? For a normal person, a non-military artist, to appear here. That's why? That's That's why?
Wolfface said to the invisible presence. The presence remained silent. The air trembled.
So bad. This is bad.
Someone said, appearing behind Lirin. Nina recalled this was the military artist who was with Lirin in the canteen.
It's not every day that I get to head outside the city, but I can't do what I want. Besides, I just came from a fairly boring fight.
Why did he appear? This man was looking at Nina and the wolf-faced man without a hint of surprise. Obviously, he wasn't surprised at Lirin's condition either. Was he observing them all along?
My mission is to protect her. I thought I could let you go if you don't mean to hurt her, but that person said I can't. In truth, I don't care about the fate of this city.
He was looking at what couldn't be seen. Had he seen it? It appeared he had some level of understanding of it.
A Heaven's Blade successor! Excuse me, I'm Savaris Qualifin Luckens.
Severus smiled at the wolf-faced man as he introduced himself. A Heaven's Blade? He was the same as Layfon? Why was he here?
To expose yourself here, it's indeed an incomprehensible situation, but I did anticipate it. You're under Ignasis. The first Luckens fought you too. The first of my family was a hero, so we had wanted a tale of some legend, but for some reason, my family is unexpectedly plain. That I really hate. Jeez. I want to say I'm glad to be here. If I hadn't heard of the story of the first Luckens, I wouldn't have taken that person's order so seriously. The residents of monsters. I wouldn't have taken it so seriously.
Savaris vanished.
Ah!
Savaris had his hand around the wolf-face's neck as he lifted him off the floor. The wolf-face flailed his sword at his attacker, but Savaris blocked it with his bare hand. The blade shattered into pieces, leaving the handle intact. Layfon had also used this skill before, but Savaris did it with his bare hand. The K from this Heaven's Blade successor battered Nina. If the wolf-face was likened to a solid wall, then Savaris was a typhoon.
Tell Ignasis, he can't win with this boring style of fighting.
Nina averted her gaze the next moment as the sound of shattered bones assaulted her eardrums.
This is the strength of those who are truly powerful.
But when Nina turned her gaze back to the fight, the body of the wolf-faced man was gone.
Tilda, they can't die. That rumor really is true. That's troublesome.
Savaris said, looking at the floor. He then turned his gaze to Nina.
You. I saw you when you suddenly appeared. I see. A fight that we can't get involved with, but is nevertheless connected to us, really does exist. The first of Luckens didn't lie.
Are you really a Heaven's Blade successor?
Yes.
I knew about you. That's Regios. You got information from there?
Wrong. Did you hear this from other Heaven's Blades? If it's Layfon, then that's another matter.
She must hide the truth. If this man knew it was Layfon, she'd be in danger.
It seems my guess is right. Don't you feel that the stirring in your K is now back?
Now she did realize her body felt normal.
This means the Haikizoku inside you has been suppressed. This person is the origin of all electronic fairies. All electronic fairies listen to her, and that includes the electronic fairy that has gone mad.
He strode to her, his sharp gaze pinning her to the floor.
You knew Layfon, so you must be a student at Zuellni. Then please convey to him a message from me. I'm heading to Zuellni to take over the job of the mercenary gang. My purpose is to bring back the Haikizoku, no matter the means.
What did you say?
To the thing inside you.
He stood next to her, took hold of her head with his hand and lifted her up. Eyes that seemed to be laughing. The presence of unrestrained violence swallowed her.
I'll kill you if you fell so far like a worm. I'll eat you whole if anything's left. You no longer need that power.
He released her. Nina felt the strength inside her being sucked away. Embarrassed by her defeat, she heard Savaris say, "Not interested anymore." That unusual presence was gone, leaving behind Lirin, who was staring at an empty space as if time had stopped.
Please convey my words to Layfon.
Savaris said, and left.
What did I do? That... I can't recall anything except for the feeling that something big had happened. Speaking of which, when did I get here?
She had no idea why she was spacing out in the mechanical department. Huh? She saw her hands put together, but nothing was in it. A feeling of warmth was all that was left. Something wet fell on her hands.
What? Why am I crying?
Yes, it was a feeling of having met with something very important, something she couldn't lose. Very important. The sound of trembling shook Liren's entire body. Everything else around her vibrated.
Ah! Green light exuded from the tubes in the mechanical department as the vibration hit the air. It felt like blood was circulating around Liren. Orange light flooded the bottom of the mechanical department.
It's working.
The city's multi-legs woke into movement. The city was leaving the danger presented by filth monsters. Mioth's crisis was solved.
This is great.
She wanted to share this happiness with whom? She couldn't remember. Nina had hidden herself to watch Liren.
Memory loss? The same as Layfon?
But this felt different to Layfon's situation back then. Liren's mission was the same as Nina's. But I saw the depth of that mask. Am I wrong? Liren wasn't a military artist. Her fate was too cruel. The alchemists who made Regios, did the world become like this because of them? The world before the coming of Regios that nobody knew about. Perhaps Nina was now in contact with something from the past. But why does Liren have the same mission?
Liren was just a normal citizen, traveling outside her city. However, she possessed something, and that something was guarding her. Savaris too. Why was a Heaven's Blade guarding Liren? Did she have some secret? So many things remain unresolved. Nina shook her head. No time to think about that, though. Time to head back? She felt dizzy as her consciousness left Mayath.
Am I returning to Zuellni? Or?
Was she being taken to another city to continue her fight with the wolf faces? Dixerio, the person who sent her on this path, was he fighting somewhere too? There are things I must do. She must return. Everyone would worry about her if she continued to remain missing. Besides, she was still concerned with how much the Haikisoku had affected Zuellni's mechanical department. If the effects remained in place, then Zuellni was still in danger. And Layfon? He must still be reproaching himself. She needed the reassurance. Head back, the strong will that came with thoughts.
Can Liren really be?
Nina's figure disappeared from Mayath as she finally realized her suspicion.
Chapter 6. The Owner of the Blade.
Time for you to go.
Carrion calmly said, despite feeling a little terrified.
I don't have the confidence to win.
It was an ancient filth monster, so ancient that even Layfon couldn't tell which phase it was in. Its swift appearance had brought fear to the entire city. Carrion had then called for the special team to stop its attack. Did he trust the words of that filth monster? Or was it because he was in despair? The filth monster didn't make a move against the military artists in Zuellni. All it did was hover above the city. The leader of the crowd? It was waiting for the student president Carrion to finish his preparations. Carrion had then ordered Layfon to go with him.
This is my first time seeing such an ancient filth monster. It is my first time knowing they can speak the human language. I don't think I can win. We don't know whether we need to fight yet.
Layfon couldn't see Carrion's face, hidden by his helmet. Carrion's words, transmitted by the flakes, did nothing to ease him.
If we have to fight, doesn't that mean we'd be annihilated in one moment?
Perhaps.
Feli was still recovering and had not received permission to leave the city. The psychokinesist of the first platoon was acting as their support.
I'm not interested in how powerful this filth monster is, but rather in what it proposes.
I don't think we can deal with it.
That isn't an issue. So long as it understands human language, then there's room for negotiation. We have to quickly understand what it values, then decide how to negotiate.
So Carrion really was here for the negotiation. Layfon pressed on the accelerator to keep up with the flying filth monster. He didn't think the negotiation would work. Their bike sped along the uneven ground. It leapt over an edge of a raised piece of earth to land heavily.
I've had this doubt for a long time. Filth monsters. They eat pollutants. Do they really have to consume human meat to survive? I've investigated the living conditions of the filth monsters. The most beneficial information for a city is the way to fight filth monsters. And what is the best is to be able to avoid a fight. Fighting filth monsters guarantees a certain level of harm. No matter what city it is, 1 or 2 military artists would die in a fight. That's the same with Grendon. Even with Zuellni now, sending out a Heaven's Blade successor again and again to fight them is still detrimental to our fighting strength.
Layfon himself was the best proof here. But filth monsters will attack us.
Yes, but why?
The way the larvae consume each other isn't anything special.
It's the baptism needed for the fittest to survive, and it's also a hunt. Eating each other isn't evil in their eyes.
But they never thought of it this way. Yes, that's the problem. A human baby isn't immediately aware of his consciousness. Humans live together to find food. But what about filth monsters? They prefer to obtain nutrients rather than consuming pollutants. In that case, what about the matured filth monsters that can think for themselves? How so? Isn't that in itself a complex way of communicating?
Layfon's cold reply had an opposite effect and made Carrion more excited.
When we solve that problem, we can perhaps find new ways to deal with filth monsters.
We might have to kill the larva, but it's different with a matured form that possesses knowledge and the capability to negotiate.
So, what do we do?
We have to understand why they attack cities. Is it really just for human meat? Human meat and any other animal meat is the same in terms of being nutritious. We just need to make food that caters for them. Besides, we can replenish the loss of food in the city by selenium.
Layfon shook his head. Allow filth monsters to come into the city to buy food? Filth monsters to buy food with money. Ridiculous. Impossible.
Reality isn't like that, though.
But it's worth trying. And
the filth monster slowed as the ground evened out. Carrion put his hands together again.
That filth monster didn't attack the city without reasons. It requested the head of the pack to attend the negotiation, and that really bothers me.
Then Layfon realized that it wasn't the speed of the bike that had changed. It was the filth monster. They were getting close to their destination.
I wonder whether anyone has ever gone to a gathering of filth monsters?
Shocked by Carrion's curiosity, Layfon sensed the atmosphere around them. No killing intent from hungry filth monsters. But next came the change of scenery. Layfon quickly gripped the handle and made an emergency stop to the bike's movement.
What?
He heard Carrion's muffled voice. The sound came from outside the helmet. The psychokinesis support had been cut off. His vision had turned narrow.
Please reply.
No matter how many times Layfon called, the psychokinesis did not reply.
What's going on?
Psychokinesis is blocked off here. Please be careful.
Layfon took out his dite, but Carrion stopped him.
Wait, we're here to negotiate. Don't do anything to provoke the other party.
But
let's see how it reacts.
Carrion slid off the bike. Endless plains surrounded them. The dry earth looked like it had been cut apart by a blade. However, the color of the air was much more transparent. The color of the sky where the filth monster was remained the usual rusty red, but the scenery here was what one could see only in a city. The air that was clear as water. This place was obviously different from others.
Is this space a 3D image? What's going on?
This kind of technology?
Layfon looked around to confirm Carrion's words. The gear he wore for outside city use prevented him from having contact with the air, so looking around did nothing to help him discern whether this reality was true or not.
Layfon, what is it?
Carrion pointed. Layfon strengthened his vision with internal K. He took the bike further up and saw a rocky mountain that sat like teeth blocking his way.
Eh? Impossible.
His eyes widened in shock. He returned to Carrion's side.
What is it?
Come and see.
Carrion took his seat and Layfon pressed on the accelerator with his foot, pressing all the way so he couldn't press on it anymore.
What did you see?
The time it took them to arrive at the place seemed so much longer than Layfon remembered.
This is...
Carrion understood. He slipped off the bike to stand as of someone sleepwalking.
The sound of rushing water shook their helmets.
A lake? Or a waterfall?
In the middle of the mountain range that resembled teeth sat a large lake. A waterfall fell on the opposite side of Layfon's location. The rumbling of water and a screen of hazy water shrouded the lake.
This doesn't look like a 3D image.
Carrion wiped the surface of the helmet. A few droplets of water had also splashed onto Layfon's helmet. Green grasses and small flowers adorned the side of the lake. Pollutants had conquered the arid world. All animals and plants besides filth monsters were dead. That had always been Layfon's belief. But this place that the filth monster had shown them...
This isn't affected by pollutants?
How? How is that possible?
We won't know till we bring this back for investigation. Besides, the filth monster here is already different from the ones we know.
Carrion dug up a small plant and put it in the bag hanging around his waist.
So you've shown us what needs to be seen. Isn't it time to show yourself?
The filth monster was already above the lake. Had it hidden itself? Or had it used teleportation just like the time when it appeared in Zuellni? Carrion couldn't tell.
Thanks, but I still don't know your true purpose.
Layfon held tight to his dite, observing the filth monster solemnly as he suppressed his urge to snatch out his dite and restore it. The huge body of the filth monster was on top of the lake,
but the surface of the water remained calm without a ripple.
But the pressure of the body felt real. That long neck, that gigantic body, those huge curved wings, they all felt so real.
Speaking of which, what is your name? Can I call you Harp?
Harp nodded with its long neck.
Then, Harp, I'm guessing that this is the real meaning behind your negotiation. 1. You want to prove that humans and filth monsters can communicate. 2. Humans are a threat to the survival of filth monsters in what we call this world, but there is a bigger mission. 3. You don't wish to fight humans. That's all.
Carrion said it all in one breath. He lifted his head to look at Harp and waited as of a student waiting for a response.
Yes, if you wish to fight, Zuellni would have been destroyed. You didn't do that, so I think you don't wish to fight. All the same, you don't want Regios to enter this territory.
Harp called through its nose. Its eyes studied Carrion.
It's my wish for a beneficial negotiation.
Carrion nodded in satisfaction. Carrion answered that question honestly, telling Harp about the contact with the ruined city, the invasion of the Haikizoku, the city's electronic ferry on a rampage.
Yes, this isn't our will, nor is it Zuellni's will. I hope you understand this point. Thank you.
Harp and Carrion actually held a conversation. That fact didn't keep Layfon from abandoning the belief of this as something unbelievable.
I understand. Well, that's amazing. I'm afraid so. So we're looking for solutions. Harp, do you know the way to fight against the Haikizoku?
Aurora Field, Human Preservation Plan, terms that Carrion had never heard of. And why is this the only filth monster?
I see. I understand.
Layfon felt uneasy.
Then let's find a way to solve the problem of the city. Harp, please allow the city to stay here for a while.
Harp had lifted its long neck.
Layfon was surprised at those words as he supported Carrion under the beating of the wind. The city is moving?
And it was moving away. So the city had started evading filth monsters? Meaning?
Hurry! The city moves as fast as the bike. It'd be troublesome if we end up having to chase after it.
Harp was gone. The presence of the filth monster that had a name had disappeared, as if it was just an illusion.
I know. They mounted the bike. Captain, is she safe? That wasn't his naive dream. He must confirm the reality. The tires of the bike bit the dry ground and the bike began its mad dash. The scenery changed after a time of riding.
Oh!
Carrion's voice drowned out the engine's call. A group of matured filth monsters stood in a file as they watched Layfon and Carrion leave.
Such grandeur?
Layfon felt like he was a doll under those gazes, but Carrion's attitude remained unchanged, the same as when he held the negotiation with Harp, except his voice was now different.
Let's hurry!
Layfon accelerated to the maximum. There were more than 10 filth monsters watching them, and all of them looked like Harp. Filth monsters that were born from the same mother shouldn't all look the same in their matured forms. Something feels really bad. The bike continued to run madly.
Not working. Still can't contact Zuellni. Are we heading the right way?
The direction is correct, but they would miss Zuellni if they erred in the direction. Harp had said the city was moving, so it must also know Zuellni's direction. Layfon and Carrion had left the site of the filth monsters. Layfon saw something ahead of them and stopped the bike.
What's wrong?
These are the city's footsteps. A human-made pit in the shape of a square, not dugout, but pressed with a huge weight that could cut through the dry earth. Layfon looked far ahead and saw similar footsteps.
We won't get lost if we follow them.
The problem now was whether they could safely catch up with Zuellni.
If we can contact them, the city can come back for us.
Anyway, let's catch up.
Layfon started the engine and the bike ran for a whole day. Night. Layfon could keep on going, but considering Carrion's strength, he had found someplace to rest instead.
Anything wrong?
He had climbed off the bike for a rest.
Nothing?
Layfon felt as if something was lurking behind them. Filth? Monsters?
Or is Harp watching? They might be monitoring them to make sure that they left. And that feeling didn't sit well with him. Well, it is a machine. He meant Harp. That filth monster moved like a robot.
So humans in the past made filth monsters. He couldn't think of any other explanation. Pollutants filled this world, and only filth monsters could live in it.
But reality was that the machines that humans made had taken on unusual changes. That must be it?
I wonder what the student president thinks. He wanted to ask, but Carrion probably wouldn't say anything here. They were still in Harp's territory,
and anything they said was apparent to it. That hateful presence was still here. Carrion was already asleep. The aurora filled the edge of the world. Layfon returned to the bike and fell into a shallow sleep. Doubtful. Is that place really the edge of the world? They had lost the map of the world. Was there really an edge? An edge like the Regios edges? If there was such a place, why the monitoring? The light sleep stopped Layfon from thinking further. Besides, returning to Zuellni was their main problem now. About the reason behind Zuellni's movement, he needed to find out whether it matched his speculations.
He and Carrion moved from their camping spot before dawn. It was during the day when contact through psychokinesis recovered.
Finally found you.
Felly?
Layfon and Carrion exchanged a glance at the sudden voice inside their helmets.
Did you get the doctor's permission?
That's good. Please give us the directions.
Right.
If possible, please find a route that the student president can drive on.
What do you mean?
Here they come.
He pulled out his dite while the bike was still rolling across the plain. He inserted a card into one of the slots on the dite.
You can drive?
Yes, but...
I sense a number of presences behind us. 0402 and 0840.
What?
Carrion looked back. Layfon stopped the bike.
Filth monsters.
How come?
Filth monsters were flying towards them.
Are they not the same as Harp?
They've been hiding in this area.
The presence of murderous intent born out of starvation. The presence that Layfon was familiar with.
So Harp's control isn't absolute.
Carrion sighed. Layfon stepped down to the passenger seat of the bike.
Please don't mind me when you drive.
All right.
Carrion pressed on the pedal and the bike started running again. Layfon connected the handles of the adamantium dite and the sapphire dite and restored them.
Layfon, the flow of psychokinesis is obstructed in my investigation of the filth monsters.
What's happening?
I don't know, but is there a reason why the filth monsters can't let you go?
We're still in the area. It's not strange the use of psychokinesis is affected. We can't deny the possibility that Harp might have changed its mind. These filth monsters might be as powerful as Harp. Anyway, it has its own purpose.
How far can you use psychokinesis?
Not for long distance. It'd work better if I can come to your side, but that isn't possible. If you go inside the group of filth monsters, your transmitter and visual aid would fail. I might even end up losing your position.
Pretty bad?
If it is just fighting, I don't find the situation too bad.
A number of matured forms. They wouldn't be cut open with the steel threads as easily as did the larvae. Carrion immediately understood the implication in Layfon's words.
I'll be troubled if you don't come back. Is there a way to make some of them head another way?
I don't think so. Perhaps this is their first time coming across food other than pollutants. They've been enduring for a while. Now they can't wait anymore.
What should they do? It was useless to ask. Layfon was the only fighting force in this situation. None of the filth monsters were in their aged phase, but they were matured, males that were probably in phases 1-3. Linton's was the only Heaven's Blade who had the skill to slaughter a large number of filth monsters at the same time. But Layfon hadn't managed to learn all of Linton's skills.
If you're correct, then they're just heading over for a change of taste. Felly, please find a route that the student president can drive on at full speed. If possible, find one that isn't too far from Zuellni.
Got it.
The dite changed into its steel thread form in place of the sword form held in the sapphire dite. The adamantium dite did well to support jumping on steel threads over a large area.
Did a lot of thinking?
Just thinking on what I can do.
I don't mean that. I mean you. Academy City is like a passage. All who associate with it will leave after they graduate. Is this place really worth protecting? It isn't because the military artists are yet to mature. That explains their weak fighting strength. It's because they all hold the same doubts. What can they protect? Is what they're protecting important enough to them that they should die for it? Military artists lose courage and flee because they fail to solve that problem.
The bike made a huge leap. Carrion's body shook violently when the bike landed, and Layfon steadied him to prevent him from falling off. His helmet smashed against Carrion's.
There are people who exist to help point out the path of life. Before the end of their lives, people are solving their own problems in different situations. But you're not one to fight at the cost of your life. Will you fight for Zuellni even if it costs you your life?
That kind of thing?
The filth monsters had entered the steel thread area. Layfon leaped onto the threads and howled.
How should I know?
A few filth monsters had been cut by the steel threads and fell onto the earth. Layfon concentrated on a filth monster before him instead of checking to see whether the others were dead. Carrion went to meet Harp for the sake of Zuellni. He was just a normal person, yet he did it to protect Zuellni. Then was Layfon the same? The Layfon who had been pulled through by the intense will of Nina?
How should I know?
He pulled the steel threads, controlling them as he ran on them. Blood spurted from filth monsters' bodies. The distance between Layfon and the bike became wider. Zuellni might be the reason why the filth monsters had chosen this path, the destination that both Layfon and Carrion were heading for. In that case, Layfon must take care of them here. The problem now wasn't with the number of steel threads he had, but with the length of them.
What is it?
I don't think it's a problem handling them here, but it'll be difficult to fight filth monsters that are further away.
We've a tiny problem here. Feli, how much longer till we reach Zuellni?
2 hours minimum. What's wrong?
The batteries. 2 hours. Amazing!
2 hours. They had spent 2 hours resting at night and cutting off the engine.
We already used the spare battery.
A bike wasn't the same as a roaming bus. Still, the bike was made for long-distance travel, so the battery shouldn't run out so easily, and they did change a new battery before they slept.
No way. Perhaps it sustained some damage during the ride, a place that can damage the battery.
How come?
We won't make it unless Zuellni comes to meet us. What should we do?
It wasn't possible to kill all of the filth monsters in 2 hours.
You'll calm me, San.
Getting into a panic does nothing. So what does Layfon plan to do next? If you plan to stand there and fight with your life, I'll stay with you.
Nissan!
The filth monsters might not split up even if I run away as bait, so we can only rely on Layfon and buy some time for Zuellni to finish its preparations.
You don't have to do that.
He didn't really like Carrion, but not many people could show his calmness and resoluteness while conversing with a filth monster.
Zuellni cannot lose its student president.
Thanks, but... Vance, you heard us!
That's reckless.
The anger in the voice allowed no protest and kept Layfon silent.
Do you really have a plan? That makes me glad.
That's right. I'll lead the way.
I'm counting on you, Layfon. You can return while keeping them like this, can't you?
Got it.
He wasn't satisfied, but it was true that he couldn't fight them all alone. Layfon returned to the bike.
Counting on you.
Carrion put his attention back to driving as Layfon did his best to herd the filth monsters together. The filth monsters chasing them were tangled in the steel threads, and those who tried to split up were herded back by Layfon's external K.
Isn't this unbelievable?
What do you mean?
He made a decision to fight so many filth monsters.
Well,
you said you couldn't win against Harp. To you, the meaning of a fight depends on the gap of strength between you and victory. I don't mean you aren't prepared to die in a fight, but that's about what your fight is like. Chosen from the few to enter the arena. What did you fight for? It must have been money in Grendon. You fought under disadvantageous circumstances. You haven't fought differently, so you don't understand their feelings.
Student president. Understand what?
To understand that they have what you don't have?
The reason to protect Zuellni. The reason to fight even at the cost of one's life.
What?
Glory!
Eh?
You might think, what kind of reason is that? But most military artists fight for the pride and glory inside them. Only they can protect the city. They protect their cities with their hands. And that's the meaning of survival.
Layfon recalled Carrion's speech at Zuellni.
So you did it for that?
Yes, in order to summon their pride. They chose the pride of a military artist, and that is a reason worthy of throwing one's life away for.
So stupid, how?
But what else is left? A military artist has the duty to fight filth monsters once he's born to this world. That's why the society made changes for them. In order to obtain glory, duty doesn't mean simple sacrifice. Military artists fight with their pride to protect the city. That's what society trains them to do.
What are you saying? That's a lie. You're wrong. But Layfon didn't give voice to those thoughts. He understood deep down that Carrion was right.
You weren't trained like that. Perhaps you had that question before you received your training. Either way, your pride is as a military artist who doesn't die. And for that you can keep on walking no matter how hard life becomes. As a military artist, you don't escape from reality. And because of that, you have to find your reason to fight. I wanted to say this to you too, Feli.
Was this Carrion's love for his sister? Feli didn't reply.
The bike continued on its path. The murderous intent of the filth monsters shrouded Layfon and Carrion, as if that tension was about to explode. The steel threads cut through the murderous intent. The liquid spurting from filth monsters' bodies turned into a mist. Those monsters who fell onto the ground writhed in agony and were immediately consumed by their brethren. The 2-hour-long flight was about to come to an end. Carrion's bad driving skill allowed the bike to slide on the ground, and that wore out the tires quicker than usual. The brake wasn't as sensitive now. The engine was overheating and parts of it were melting. The bike wasn't the only thing edging close to its limit. Carrion had almost exhausted his physical strength and concentration as he experienced the terror of filth monsters outside the city. He did all he could to keep himself calm and dispel the fear in him like all other military artists.
The signal's out. Seems we're about to run out.
A red light was flashing in the middle of the control panel, and the status of the battery showed low, and Zuellni finally appeared before them.
Great!
Carrion's words were cut off. The bike swayed as his head lolled.
He's lost consciousness.
The sight of Zuellni had broken Carrion's concentration, causing him to sink into a slumber. The bike crashed into a huge rock and Carrion was thrown out of his seat. Layfon caught the student president in the air. The engine sparked and the entire bike exploded. Pieces of the bike scattered and cracked wheels shot upward. Layfon ran ahead of the explosion. The weight of Carrion prevented him from dashing at full speed. Layfon bit his lower lip, the steel threads waving madly behind him. Jump, run, leap! He ran through a sea littered with debris to where Zuellni stood. Something sounded on the surface of his helmet. The pieces of earth shattered by Zuellni's passage danced everywhere, and those pieces of small debris hammered Layfon. Praying the debris wouldn't damage the protective suit, he kept running. Unable to evade the shattered pieces, Layfon headed underneath the city. A presence behind them suddenly surged. His steel threads closed in on the filth monster and cut apart its wing. It lost its balance to slide on the ground. Whoa! But the filth monster didn't give up. It slid with the momentum of its fall with its jaws wide open, planning to sweep Layfon and Carrion into its mouth. Layfon could have jumped up to avoid the attack, but he couldn't do it with Carrion on his shoulder.
Keep running! Sharnid's voice sounded from Layfon's helmet, and the filth monster wailed. The bullet had shot through its eye.
Compared to attacking the enemy head-on, sniping really is much more enjoyable.
Layfon kept running. The door of the city was close, and he could see Sharnid standing there. Two new figures slipped through the door and leapt past Layfon, one holding a lance and one holding a baton.
Naruki roared. She adjusted her landing trajectory in the air and swung her baton with all her might at the weakest scale of the filth monster, in between its eyebrows. The attack bounced Naruki off the filth monster's body, but her attack managed to shatter the scale and expose the meat beneath. She tossed out a rope and it hooked itself onto the filth monster's lower jaw.
She slid down the rope stopping the filth monster's movement, pulling its head down to the ground.
Naruki pulled at the rope to keep the filth monster in place. Her shoes sank deep into the ground, and the rope made a moaning voice at the pressure.
The tug-of-war didn't last long. Naruki let go of the rope and left her spot. Dalshina leapt up. Her lance stabbed deep into the wound that Naruki had made. The bone of the filth monster's head broke as Dalshina's external K destroyed the brain cells. Blood spurted from the filth monster. Its head crashed heavily onto the ground. It died.
Shocked at what had happened beside him, Layfon hadn't stopped running. He then felt a change above him. What is it? A massive amount of K was being gathered on the outskirt of the city.
Layfon arrived below the door. No time to use the lift. Should he jump? A new figure appeared at the door. Wearing a protective suit, the figure slid down the rope, its length coiling around her waist.
Give me your hand.
Her voice sounded in Layfon's helmet. The voice he had wanted to hear for so long. The voice filled with colors. The voice that shone before him. Layfon leapt and took hold of her hand. He handed Carrion over. They confirmed each other at the closest distance possible.
You're back!
Yes! They spoke without using the force of psychokinesis. A great flash of light enveloped them the next second. A huge ball of K had shot out from the city, obliterating a large number of filth monsters and triggering chain explosions.
Let's go!
Yes! Layfon retrieved the steel threads and turned the adamantium dite into a sword. The feeling of the tightening of relaxed nerves.
The feeling of his flesh and his concentration coming together. The feeling of K exploding from head to toe. He was confirming what he had, some kind of meaning that could release his strength. Something that was like a parasite. This was the current Layfon Allsafe, howling alone as he leaped into the battlefield. Pulled back into the city, Nina put Carrion down. The medical team, its members all wearing protective suits, rushed over to tend to the student president. Nina looked at the battle. The second shot of massive K closed in on the filth monsters like a ball of light.
This is
a weapon she had never seen before. The intensity of the K made the air vibrate.
The K cannon!
Carrion said, standing up with the support of the medical team.
It's not on that huge a scale. We need about 100 military artists to recharge it. Not a very good weapon.
To make this weapon, that means.
We don't have to cower under the threat anymore. Besides,
Nina watched Carrion's eyes.
he has become his original self.
No! If he does that, then it's meaningless for him to come here. You're the student president. You shouldn't be tolerating his condition. Don't you realize that you're using him?
Academy City. A city that no one could view it as home. That was the city's fate. A cold yet gentle place that nurtured newborn birds that had yet to fly. Carrion was shocked by Nina's words.
I'm using Layfon as a tool?
Outrage surged in him. It wasn't like that. He wanted to shout it out, but ended up swallowing it. He calmed himself down.
I'd receive punishment if I did that.
That Lirin had said. He has to shoulder the agony that is the result of his punishment.
When that time comes, reproving himself and reproving everything around him. Nina watched the battle. Layfon was dancing with the filth monsters, sword held high. When that time comes, and till the end, she wanted to stand with him. He shouldn't feel regret at what he himself has done. Nina continued to gaze at the battlefield. She felt a sigh coming from Carrion. Birds called somewhere out in this world. Epilogue.
The roaming bus still wasn't there.
What's going on?
She was fed up. The bus was many days late, according to the schedule. Only the sound of the lonely wind and the vibration of the city's multi-legs accompanied the outer edge of Myeth.
Well, not all things go as smoothly as expected,
Savaris said, sitting on the long bench with his back bent forward.
Even if you do that, the roaming bus won't appear.
Savaris's pair of binoculars were more powerful, and he could see further than her. Leering didn't listen to him. She ignored him and looked through her binoculars again.
What if Layfon become a coward?
She lowered her binoculars to look at him.
If he hasn't started anew and lives his life dragging himself around? What would you do?
A person surfaced in Lirin's mind. She met him in the assault on Myath, the military artist named Roy. A military artist who had encountered failure and was exiled. A military artist who was twisted and had failed to regain his courage. Whenever she recalled Roy, somewhere deep inside her she would ponder whether Layfon was the same.
Well,
Savaris smiled, as usual. Lirin knew he wasn't really smiling. She chose her words carefully.
It's okay if he's not acknowledged as long as he's done everything he can, but
What if Layfon was like Roy?
I'll knock him awake,
She said, and balled her hand into a fist. Compared to Savaris's stronger arms, her small and delicate arm held up her fist. He looked at her with a vague expression.
really?
Really?
He smiled and shrugged in admiration. Lirin saw his real smile. She once again picked up her binoculars.
Since you're looking for something, why not look at something that can be seen?
Some other noise came through to them.
Hey?
Such as that.
He pointed. Lirin adjusted the direction and the strength of her binoculars. A huge figure was moving above rolling dust. She thought for a split second that it was a filth monster.
A city?
Yes.
No way. Why is a city here?
This is the time.
A fight for selenium.
We're entering a fight?
Strict rules are set in a fight between Academy cities, so it won't be that intense. Besides, you see the flag, don't you?
He urged. Liring didn't see it at first as she was adjusting the strength of the binoculars, but she managed to catch her target. The image of a young girl was weaved onto the flag like a crest.
Eh?
She had seen that crest in Layfon's letter that told him he had passed the entrance exam.
Can this be...
Looks like we don't need to wait for a bus.
Liring watched Zuellni, the city that was heading for them.